convenience stores, WKRK-FM, and HD1 Cleveland Heights. This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan. An Odyssey Sports Station.
92.3 The Fan, 2020 Sports.
This 2020 Sports Update is powered by Smiley One Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing in Bryant, Cleveland's premier heating and cooling service providers.
Towns, second free throw. Is no good. Mitchell lets it bounce. The boys, that'll do it. The Knicks, with their largest comeback of the season, down 17 with 10 minutes to go. It's a very merry Knicksmas here at MSG. 126-124, the final.
Audio courtesy of ESPN. That was how the Cavaliers fell at the hands of the Knicks in the Big Apple last night. Cleveland now drops to 17-15 on the season. We'll be back in action tomorrow night in Houston against the Rockets. Christmas Day NFL action is heard right here on 92.3 The Fan. Saw the Cowboys taking down the Commanders 30-23 on the road. Vikings beat the Lions 23-10 at home, and the Broncos win in KC in an AFC West showdown against the Chiefs 20-13. The Detroit loss means that the Lions are now eliminated from the postseason, and the Packers have clinched a playoff spot in the NFC. And in college football, within the last 10 minutes, it's being reported by multiple sources that Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham has emerged as the focus of the coaching search at Michigan. Whittingham led the Utes for the last 20 years as he's the all-time leader in wins at Utah. Coming up next right here on 92.3 The Fan, it's Nick Pedone and Lance Reisland. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
Cleveland. Hope everybody had a great holiday yesterday. Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland hanging out with me on a Friday. It's Boxing Day. December 26th, 2025. Did you know, like, if you ate fish and chips for Christmas yesterday, aka if you live in the United Kingdom, today is a bank holiday. They don't work on the 26th. They don't work on Boxing Day over there. It's a fun fact to start your Friday morning.
Very interesting. Get us going with a little UK trivia, if you will.
Yeah,
I like it.
I have a deep bag of tricks. That's just the first one. Lance, good morning, dude. This is our first time working together. We're both on the tailgate show prior to Browns games. I get people started 7 to 10. You and Jonathan Peterlin take things over 10 to kick. But it's nice to actually have us both in the studio with mics on, not both in the studio just transitioning shows, man. Excited to talk with you today.
Absolutely. Good morning to you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody here. Yeah, looking forward to it. When I found out I was going to be working with you today, our first time together. Obviously, we've listened to each other, so this should be a lot of fun.
For sure, dude. So we got to get. I feel like we have to get started here because it's a natural debate of what was going on yesterday, and we want to hear from you. 216-474-0092. This is going to be a collaborative program today, but Coach Riz, you're a football guy. So I have to know, because this was the debate that went around probably every household yesterday, is what's on TV in terms of sports on Christmas Day? Are we traditionalists? Are we staying with the hoops? Now NFL's got their deal going on Netflix. What was on in the Reisland household on Christmas yesterday?
Well, we did a lot. We went over my brother-in-law's, and we had they don't really have the games on too much. So when I was watching, first of all, I got to go. I'm traditionalist, so I will stay with Cavs when they're on.
Yes.
However, I'm a football guy, so I'll usually be flipping back and forth, trying to make sure that I see what's going on. Usually there's some really good games, basketball games on Christmas, and the football games were okay yesterday. Not, you'd like to have some more headliners, in my opinion, but we flip back and forth. Got to watch the Cavs. The Cavs are extremely frustrating at times. So that was that. Whether it's football or not, you'd like to, somebody's got to make a play. Somebody's got to make a play when a play needs to be made. So. We flip back and forth. If it was no Cavs, I'm going football. But if it's Cavs, I will watch the Cavs, and then I'll do some flipping back and forth.
Okay, so yesterday for me, I have a confession. I did not turn on the NFL. Not once. And maybe it's I was trying to figure out the reason as to why. Because so I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Basketball is my first love. You grew up in an era where LeBron James, arguably greatest player of all time, in my opinion, is the greatest player of all time, and grew up in an era where the football team is doing what the football team is currently doing. That's not winning a lot of games, looking for a quarterback. Very easy to gravitate towards the basketball team that was having a lot of success, going to the NBA Finals, all that fun stuff. But I feel like a lot of people don't know that about me. I feel like a lot of people think that I'm a Browns first guy, I'm a football guy, but for me on Christmas, and it was for a big reason, A, eliminated from fantasy football playoffs, so didn't really have anything going there. And B, you just look at the slate of those games, and the NBA, I know LeBron had that viral call out last year where he said, Christmas Day belongs to the NBA. But you look at just the matchups yesterday, Cavs Knicks, that should be an Eastern Conference preview. And will it be? We're going to get to that, trust me. Then you have OKC and San Antonio. Those are the championship winner in the NBA this year, probably going to be one of those two teams. Then you've got LeBron and KD. After that, you've got Steph versus Cooper Flagg. You look at just the star power that Adam Silver puts in front of us on Christmas, and then you look and see the Chiefs backup quarterback, who I had never heard of prior to this week, after Gardner Minshew got injured and obviously Patrick Mahomes is done. It's yeah, I'm going to stick to the NBA. And maybe some of it as well is Browns fatigue. We're going to talk some Cleveland Browns on the show today as well. Our Browns beat reporter Daryl Ryder is going to join the program here at 10 a.m. But it was an easy decision for me to just ride with hoops. And that's something that I haven't done, Coach, in a really long time, because this is football season. I'm in it. I live it. I breathe it. We're in one of the greatest football cities around. But yesterday, the decision was kind of easy to just tune into hoops and do something that I feel like I haven't done in a really long time.
Well, if you see me smiling over here, it's I'm smiling because it shows our age difference, and the reason why is because I realize that you young guys, you haven't had any success with the Browns. You've never known when I was in my early teens, I got to see Bernie and Metcalf and Webster Slaughter and the crew and those cardiac kids. It was awesome times back when the dog pound was the dog pound, and it was a terrible place to play for opponents. So you never got to see that. So you young guys have actually done a great job of sticking with the Browns because you never tasted that success. And then LeBron, if you go back to 2016, I remember my wife and I in the basement screaming like we were at the game, with that last possession from the Golden State Warriors. So, basketball on Christmas kind of synonymous. Browns haven't given you much, you young guys, much reason to watch them, football in general. But yeah, I try to flip back and forth. Unfortunately for the Browns fans, you young guys have not had any success whatsoever.
Dude, and that's why I think I'm more so than even a lot of people that work here on the station. I don't really have any hesitancy voicing some of the concerns that I have with the team. And the reason why is because I see what's happened to the Browns with my generation of fans, and certainly for the generation under. So I don't have an issue disclosing on here. I'm 26 years old, but my little brother's generation of 20 and under, those kids don't care. They've got their parlays in, they've got their fantasy teams. My brother's friends will shamelessly just out and about wear their Jamar Chase jerseys because they're a fan of Jamar Chase, because he's won them fantasy football leagues. He's an exciting player to watch. He does a fun touchdown celebration. He's won them parlays. To me, that's shameful. That's a disgrace. I would never wear a Cincinnati Bengals jersey, hat, anything outside the house, because even though I do watching Jamar. He's a fun player, but that's why I'm so outspoken about the current state of the Browns, because I see something very concerning on the precipice. Whereas my dad brought me up no, we hate the Steelers. When we go to the Steelers game or the Browns Steelers game, and you see all those people with the stupid yellow towels, those are the enemies. That's not what we stand for. We stand for Cleveland, we stand for the Browns. So I want to see them turn this thing into a winner, because I'm quite literally watching in real time a generation of fans where it becomes very easy to not care, because it has been a ton of losing over a very sustained amount of time.
Well, they got to make, the bottom line is it's a product-based league. And I'm a big, obviously, as a coach, I'm a big process-based. You got to get there, but you got to win games. And some of the concerns people have, some of the concerns the generations coming up have, those are real things. You got to win games. You got to give these people a reason to want to watch. And for me, it comes down to that lack of alignment and lack of professionalism and the ability to make sound decisions and things that start from the owner to the general manager to the coaches to the players. And everybody always talk culture all the time. You've heard me say this a bunch. Culture is the most overrated word in sports. If you want a good culture, you got to win games and you got to do things consistently. Sometimes you're not going to win, sometimes you're not going to lose, but if you don't have a good way of running things, if you're not organized, prepared, attention to detail, those things are all lacking, and you're not going to grab this young generation. First and foremost, if you don't win, it's an instant gratification culture right now. You got to win, and you got to put out a product that people are proud of, win or lose, and the Browns aren't doing that right now.
No, they're definitely not, and it's like, it just drives me nuts too, because like when you've got stuff to lean into, like lean into it. Like in 2023, I felt like they never fully leaned into Flacco fever. Like you mentioned this instant gratification world, and it is like we're living in this TikTok generation of everything. But like, was there a more instant gratification situation than bringing a guy off of his couch and having him quarterback you to the playoffs? They couldn't chase that guy out of the building fast enough, because Deshaun Watson was uncomfortable. They bring in Jameis. He's able to at least make things watchable for a little bit, but then that ultimately leads you back to Joe Flacco. And then you've got this four-man quarterback nonsense. And Shedeur Sanders is a really polarizing player that a lot of people like, especially the younger fans. And you see the raw talent and the ability there, but you waste 5 weeks in the middle of the season on Dylan Gabriel. And trust me, more on that to come later in the show. And it's just like they refuse to lean into what people want and giving people what they want, where sometimes that's the most sensible path. Like you had a really hot, and maybe it was just a flash in the pan, and maybe that came to be true this season, but you had something working with Joe Flacco in Kevin Stefanski's offense in 2023, had to pivot away from it. You have something at least a little bit in Shedeur Sanders, and we're going to get on if they should commit to him or what this means down the stretch, but we're underway. I could already tell me and Coach are going to have a lot of good conversations throughout. We want to hear from you guys as well. 216-474-0092. Also this morning, we are live on YouTube on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. So go give us a sub there. Go drop us a comment. I am in the comments. I don't know about you, Coach Riz. I am a big commenter. I will, even when I'm just at my house and Nick and JP are on, or, if it's earlier in the morning before I go to work, if Ken and Lime are on YouTube, kind of the first thing I do when I wake up, I'm in there. I'm in the comments. I'm active in the comments. So we see you guys in the comments. Dan, shout out YouTube comments already starting up. Enjoyed the Cavs game yesterday very much. And that's exactly where we're going. And that's exactly what I want to ask you guys at 216-474-0092. Does Christmas Day's performance against the New York Knicks make you at home feel better or worse about the current state of the Cleveland Cavaliers? I think there's a couple of ways that you could look at this. On one hand, you could look at a team that's 17-15, currently 7th in the Eastern Conference. You're a play-in team right now. But on the other hand, you could look at this thing and be like, hey, it was the New York Knicks. This is who we want to face. 126, 124, you can live with a game like that. So how are you guys feeling this morning about the Cavs after that thrilling game with the New York Knicks on Christmas Day? It's Nick Pedone and Coach Riz, Lance Reisland, with you guys on the Fan till noon. Stay with us.
Want to see the wine and gold?
Michigan head coaching search. Whittingham led the Utes for the last 20 years as he's the all-time leader in wins at the university. His candidacy is expected to be shared with top officials at Michigan today, and if they approve, a deal could come official in the near future. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
In your weeknight with the best segments of the day. The Fan Rewind. Weeknights at 11.
People in the YouTube comments already getting after it, asking if I use a burner account in the morning show chat. I don't. If you ever see me in there, it is just my actual name, Nick Pedone. Excited to be with you guys this morning. Hope everybody had a really nice, safe holiday and a great Christmas. Lance Reisland, Coach Riz, hanging out in studio with me as well. Alrighty, well, we got to jump into it with both feet. There's no radio guy segue within me to do this, other than the Cavaliers came up short on Christmas Day, 126-124 in Madison Square Garden, choked away. I believe that was a 17-point lead there, Jax, against the New York Knicks. How do we feel about that this morning at 216-474-0092? Because I do think there's two lenses that you can look at this loss through. You can look at this and say, well, this was really embarrassing. You were up 17 in the fourth quarter. You get out-rebounded and out-physicaled late in the game where you were doing that to the Knicks. Like, there was a moment in the mid-third quarter where I had an intrusive thought, and I was like, oh my goodness, are the Cavs right now the more physical team than New York? Because we were doing to the Knicks what the Knicks do to us, and you have Josh Hart go down with that injury, and he's been a thorn in our side. I was like, man, this could be a big moment in this season because you had just flexed your muscles against the Charlotte Hornets. Then you absolutely decimated the New Orleans Pelicans. It would be like, this would be a great way to win 3 in a row. This is an exclamation point in prime time on Christmas Day. And then the meltdown happens. Then you can't get a rebound. Then you're out rebounded 8-1 in that fourth quarter. Mitchell Robinson to Jarrett Allen alone. And that's ultimately, in my opinion, how you come up short in that game. Coach, as you were watching that, what'd you make out of how the Cavs went down? Because, dude, that was frustrating to watch there.
Well, even more than the third quarter, I was with you. Like, the physicality I thought was there, but the early start, they got off to just a blazing start, passing the ball, moving the ball. Obviously I thought the previous two games, they had such bench help. And I was talking earlier in this week, they've lost Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert, Strus is not playing, and George Niang, that chemistry thing. I feel like their chemistry has improved over the last couple games. But it comes down to, just like it does in any sport, you got to make a play when it's important, right? First quarter, second, third quarter, but that fourth quarter, when you need a rebound, when you need a stop, that's what they seem to struggle with. That's kind of the MO of the Cavs. And once again, I'm going to be more on the positive side of it, because I think, once again, for me, it comes down to what do they do in the playoffs, and are they building to the playoffs, and are they doing things now that will help them win in the playoffs? I don't particularly know that, but I will be honest with you, that's where I'm judging it, right? Because they've gotten in and they've been kind of pushed around and bullied in the playoffs. So are they building towards that? I thought the toughness was better, but again, you got to make a play. Whatever sport it is, you got to make a play, and that fourth quarter is kind of when the good teams make those plays.
And this was a measuring stick game. At least it should have been, right? Because we were all anticipating that the playoffs are going to come down to Cleveland Cavaliers versus New York Knicks. So, while I agree with you, because we said all summer, regular season doesn't matter. Donovan Mitchell said it himself after they got bounced out of the playoffs. He said we could go 82-0 next year and nobody will care because it's about what you do in the postseason. I guess the thing to me is, okay, now you've played 35% of your games around there. Rubber got to hit the road at some point. These games count the same as the ones in April count. So, right now you're the 7th seed. Right now you're a play-in team. And this is the most expensive roster in the history of the NBA. It's the lone team in the second apron. We had reports earlier this week, and then they did win 2 in a row, to their credit, that Dan Gilbert was getting a little bit unhappy, that maybe Kenny Atkinson could find his way onto the hot seat. And, well, I think that, like maybe it's a little bit premature for that stuff. It is like, well, these games still matter, and you want to try to find a way to win in the postseason. Like, this was supposed to be your pressure cooker year where it was conference finals or bust. For a lot of people, it was maybe even NBA finals or bust. And unfortunately, when I watched that game yesterday, while yes, you did make steps because you were in there with a really good Knicks team on the road and you were up 17 at one point, so you learned that you're capable of contending. You ultimately didn't walk away with a victory, and it was another fourth quarter collapse, and it was another showing out of one specific player in my mind. I want to throw this out there now. I'm of the belief that like you're not going to win a title with Jarrett Allen on your roster. You just can't. In the way that the current NBA is set up, like I get that people have their gripes with the two small guards and the two bigs and what that fit looks like. I just think from like a mentality that you have to win a championship in the NBA, you can't have a guy out there in the fourth quarter that's getting out rebounded 8-1, not to Karl Anthony Towns, who's a good player and an all-star, but to Mitchell Robinson, who plays a reserve role and comes off the bench. It's the same thing that Thomas Bryant did to Jarrett Allen last year in the playoffs with the Indiana Pacers. Like, you just can't have a guy on your roster like that and expect to win a championship.
Well, the thing we don't know, and I'm going to clap back just a little bit, is we don't know what his chemistry involved. Does he, in terms of defensive calls and all those things that, there's certain glue guys. Is he a glue guy? We don't know that. But yeah, his physicality in the fourth quarter, his inability to get key rebounds and kind of get bullied at time, that's got to change. And I don't know if that does change. But that would be my only thought is what is the chemistry they had last year? You don't see that chemistry, especially when the second unit comes in as a guy who likes all sports and kind of likes the flow of sports.
Yeah.
When the Browns come up, when the Cavs come in with their second unit, they all of a sudden lose their chemistry, in my opinion. They don't have that flow. They don't have that ability to pass. There's no Ty Jerome or Karis LeVert where there's free flowing kind of offense. They kind of get stagnant. Now, does Jarrett Allen, going back to the first group, does he help with defensive calls? Like I said, does he help with setting up the defense? Does he help with because he's not getting the key rebound, and that's what it really comes down to. When people have their grudges with Jarrett Allen, when I see it, it's he doesn't get the key rebound when we need a key rebound, and that's the scoring he doesn't have to do, but that's what he's got to do. He plays really good defense. It's can he get the rebound, and to this point he hasn't. So he's kind of bringing that criticism upon himself.
Yeah, and I think another piece of this too, and like the soft word gets thrown out there a lot, and I think like if you're playing any professional sport at that high of a level, like you're probably not soft to the same textbook definition that you or I would use it as, but like he's had an impossible job shaking that label because this consistently happens to him. Like this happens to him.
Well, he's a nice guy, right?
He's
nice. He's almost too nice. He's almost too nice.
I'm sure he like after they lost that game, he was probably going around New York City looking for Pokemon. Like maybe he found a Bulbasaur, but he was not able to find a key rebound in the fourth quarter to help lead the Cavs to a victory. And that's ultimately what we're after here. Like this is a very important season for this basketball team, so it comes across to the fans as you got a guy that just doesn't really care. Do
you think his personality hurts him with being so nice?
I think his personality definitely hurts him in the way that he's perceived with the fans. And then when he consistently delivers performances like what happened to him yesterday in the late fourth quarter, like I just don't think that helps his cause per se. 216-474-0092. Are you guys feeling better or worse about the Cavs after what happened to them on Christmas? Let's go out to Doylestown where Rick's got some thoughts on the Cavs. What's going on, Rick?
Hey, good morning. Happy holidays to you guys.
Yeah,
happy holidays.
Feeling better or worse about the Cavs?
A little both. And I will say this, I would blame a lot of it yesterday. First of all, like we all, I think we agree that the regular season is about building the team ready for the playoffs this year. So I think Kenny's taking a little different approach to it. But the one thing that irritated me yesterday was for the last 7 minutes of the game, it was Dean Wade and Sam Merrill and no Tyson Hunter. And those two in the third quarter were the reason we got out to that lead. Tyson and Hunter are superior defenders compared to Merrill and Wade. And, they have these guys, I don't know, I think he didn't make any adjustments at all. During New York made that big run, there was no adjustment at all. No lineup change, no nothing. So I blame a little bit on the coach. Maybe he had to see what he's got going. But Jalen Tyson's up and coming, and DeAndre Hunter is definitely our best sixth man. So, I'm positive. I love the way they went in there at the beginning of the game. They smacked them in the face. They showed them they were there to play, and I'm very proud of the Cavs for that. But the coach, he let me down a little bit yesterday. So it's a growing process, man. Let's have a little patience. And in defense of Jarrett Allen, I do agree with you guys to an extent. He's not the physical guy. But if you look at some of those possessions, a lot of time Jarrett's main objective is he's covered up the deficiencies of our guards, so he's moving over before he gets a chance to get the rebounds. He's not in the best position all the time. I think if he were to stay strictly on Robinson or on Towns and not worry about trying to cover the other guy's mistake, there might be a little more success there. The lineup change was the rotation just bothered me a little bit yesterday. But there's definitely more positive than negative. I hated seeing that loss, but the Cavs are going to be fine, man. Let's let him figure it out. We're going to be all right.
All right, Rick. Appreciate the call. And I think the criticism of Atkinson is warranted because Jalen Tyson has been, one, a tremendous find for this team all year, but two, he was balling. I think it just comes to, and Coach, you could probably speak to this as well, he's got a comfortability with Sam Merrill and Dean Wade, are two guys that have been in this system for now 2 years, whereas Jalen Tyson is a little bit of a younger player that he probably doesn't have that same trust and comfortability with in a big marquee nationally televised fourth quarter game against the team that you're anticipating seeing at some point later in this season.
Well, I'm a big Hunter fan, so I will start with that. I'm a big Hunter fan. I think Tyson has been outstanding this year, bring great energy. He's kind of a juice guy, right? So you need those, they've lost. I was looking at the, they scored 57 against the Hornets, the bench, and then they scored 55 in their win over the Pelicans. Pretty solid yesterday too, but they lost all that, like I said, that second kind of flow. Maybe that's why Hunter went, to the second unit. Tyson's a guy that brings great juice in the second unit. My question is, why would Atkinson be on the hot seat? If we're all judging him on the playoffs, isn't that where he should be judged then? Isn't that kind of where, like, I'm at a loss, the thought of that him being on the hot seat. And, I've actually heard the comparison to him and Kevin. And if everything comes down to the playoffs, what do you think? I think he should be judged there then.
So I think I agree with you. Okay. When you look at Kenny Atkinson, this is a guy that has had success throughout his entire career. You look at last season. I don't think you win 64 regular season games by accident. What happened to them in the playoffs happened to them in the playoffs. They were injured, whatever. But I think in the NBA, it's easy to look at the coach and be like, unfortunately, you gotta go. Especially for where the Cavs sit, where they're in this second apron, and because of how much money they've spent, it's hard for them to make trades. So, they can't aggregate salaries. They can't, there's so much they can't do in terms of improving this roster. So when you have this pressure cooker season where you are anticipating NBA Finals or bust, or at least Conference Finals, where you should be on this warpath to play the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the markings of this so far is that it's not even coming close. You're a 7th seed, you're the play-in right now, and a play-in team usually isn't making that kind of noise. I think it is easy to look at the coach and be like, well, something has to change. It's almost impossible for us to make a trade mid-season that's going to significantly improve the roster. So you look at, what can you do? You can't pick up guys. Free agency's more or less over unless you want to give Tristan Thompson a call, which at the current juncture, I wouldn't hate. At least he could cause a fist fight at practice and maybe toughen some of these guys up a little bit. But so you can't really significantly improve the roster. I think it's unfortunate, but you just look at Kenny and be like, well, it's on you. I will agree. If they fired Atkinson, even though some of that smoke has been out there this week for whatever reason, I'd be stunned, just because you did it in 2016 where you fired David Blatt, you promote Ty Lue, and you win the title, but you had LeBron, and that's a big difference. That's a big mitigating factor. I don't think that necessarily happens this year.
I just don't, it makes, when I hear those things, it's kind of, and once again, you try to take the bias out as a coach, but I'm thinking to myself, you go into this season, what we did last year with the second unit, what we did to make runs in games, and all the things we did with the rotations and all that, it didn't work in the playoffs. So is he trying things to try different rotations? Once again, I'm a big Hunter fan, I'm a big Tyson fan, and I agree with the caller. You want, especially especially Hunter for me. He brings such length out there, and that's kind of what they struggle with in playoffs, those long wing players. And he seems like a guy who can kind of take that away from teams. But the rotations that we used didn't work. So is he building towards, like, I don't know, I think you got to let it play out a little bit, right? Let's get to those playoffs. Now, if we're having this you and I are having this conversation because they've been bounced in round 1 or round 2, then we go, yeah, maybe there needs to be a change. But for me, the idea of him being bounced right now, once again, though, I say this all the time, the expectations are big, right? If you don't have expectations, you become apathetic. That's okay. Maybe there needs to be a little pressure on those guys.
Yeah, well, 216-474-0092. We got phone lines absolutely packed. James, Matt, Larry, Chuck, Marcus. Hang on, we see you guys. We're going to get to you straight ahead. It's Nick Pedone, Lance Reisland talking all things Cavs right here on The Fan.
When there's news that affects the Cleveland sports fan,
content from our shows each and every weekday, including daily live streams of The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima from 6 to 10 a.m. and Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin from 2 to 7 p.m. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
Listen to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app.
I just can't have a guy get out rebounded 8-1 against Mitchell Robinson. Can't do it. Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland in with me here on 92.3 The Fan, hanging out with you guys on Boxing Day until noon. Coach, I don't know. I'm sitting here. I'm like getting myself back to worked up, like as worked up as I was yesterday. I want to take the moral victory for the Cavs because they did show things, especially coming off back-to-back wins against teams that they should have beaten and they did. Like, I want to be able to take the glass half full look at this thing and be like, hey, you know what? You were up 17 against the Knicks. You want to face this team later in the season when it means a whole lot more come playoff time. But it's just like, I can't shake the fact that as long as Jarrett Allen continues to deliver in performances like what he delivered yesterday, like this is year 10 for a guy. Like, I don't think you're going to learn how to overcome the moment. I don't think you're going to learn how to overcome even Mitchell Robinson, who out-rebounded him 8-1 in the fourth quarter. Like, I'm sitting here just trying to find a path for the Cavs this season. We're looking at, the national shows right now have Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs. Like, these are the teams that you've got to beat if you want to hoist the Larry O'Brien this season. And I just, current state, I don't see it. And there's time. There is. You got 40-some games of basketball to go. But as currently constructed, I'm not seeing it, man. I'm just not.
Well, I'm gonna. First of all, there's no such thing as a moral victory in sports. I really don't believe that. I don't think there's. You learn from a loss. I think you tuck your tail and you respond from a loss, but I don't think you learn from it as much as people think. I'm with you. But the only thing I would say is I think there has to be, I said it before, an element of patience, because going into the season, you said it best. Donovan said we can go 82-0. And you're right. For me, I'm thinking I don't really care, especially in, I don't really start watching basketball, to be honest with you, until bowl season's over. I mean, I'll have it on there, but I'm not turning it on until after bowl season, because that's when it starts to get real down the stretch. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are saying what we did last year, we got in the playoffs, it didn't work. We're trying some things. We're going to make this work. Maybe in those critical situations, maybe someone else is in. Who knows? We don't know the whole story. I'm going to err on the side. First of all, there's no such thing as moral win. So yesterday was a loss. You tuck your tail and you try to figure it out. But I'll have this conversation when we get to the playoffs, and I will say because hopefully we're saying, yeah, their struggles are in this season that helped us now.
Alrighty, our Surfside Cavs update brought to you by Surfside. 216-474-0092. Let's go out to the phones. Matt's in his car. Got some thoughts on what's going on with the Cavs. What's going on, Matt?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good morning. Happy holidays.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. So here's the problem. I hear people going after Kenny this morning, saying, you need to make a coaching change. We can't do that again. We just went through, the whole 4-year deal with Bickerstaff, and you can change the coach once, but I feel like if you're having these discussions again, it's not the coach, it's the players. And fairly or unfairly, I think the bullseye is centered right at Jarrett Allen. Like most people look at him just getting pushed around by Robinson and Towns, and I think people are just going to always look back, and I'm pretty sure he was the one at MSG a few years ago that said the lights are too bright.
Brighter than we expected.
And fairly or unfairly, I think everyone just now still has that preconceived notion with Allen that they're soft. And I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm not exactly a expert on the whole second apron stuff with the NBA stuff, but I was looking at, I don't know if the cat, I don't know what Markkanen's contract is. Man, that looks stupid. The fact that we got rid of him now, I don't know if Utah just re-signed him or Zubac from the Clippers. Like, we just need someone that can, like, get in there, like a big, tall guy that can muck it up in there, out-rebound, and, like, I don't know. But it's just kind of like it almost feels like that 08-09 period of the Cavs where it's like you feel like you like constructed everything a certain way and then the NBA completely shifts a different way. And it's like just kind of feel like we're like a rudderless ship right now. But I will say this, at least Dan Gilbert probably gave his employees a decent Christmas bonus this year. I'm sure Paul Dolan could only afford a 6-month membership to the Jelly of the Month Club.
Matt, thanks for the call, buddy.
A little shot at the Guardians at the end there.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of activity to talk about there, so I don't think we're going to get any guards talk in on the show. That might be the extent of it, but like here's the thing with Jarrett Allen. Like, here's another piece of that. Like Karl Anthony Towns is an all-star center, and congratulations to him. Jarrett Allen's setting up families now as he gets that late fourth quarter rebound and then proposes to Jordan Woods after the game. So Jarrett Allen responsible for what's going to be I hope a successful marriage there for Big Purr. But like it was Mitchell Robinson that was doing it to him. So like if you're in a fist fight with a fellow all-star center, like I can't be mad. Karl Anthony Towns, great player. That's why the Knicks went out there and got him, and that's why the Knicks share these Eastern Conference title expectations with our Cavs here. But like I can't get behind the fact that I've seen this guy get beaten, abused by Thomas Bryant, who's thankfully here on the Cavs. Like, I'd almost like to see a little bit more of him and see if he could bring some of that physicality that he brought to Jarrett Allen when he was on the Pacers last year. Now Mitchell Robinson, who did it to Jarrett the first time during Donovan's first crack at the playoffs here in Cleveland, and then now again last night. Like, I can't ignore that. Like, it's not the upper echelon of the league that's doing this to him. It's these guys that, like, Mitchell Robinson ain't doing this on a night-in, night-out basis. Like, he's bringing his best against Jarrett Allen because he sees his opposition and he knows, like, it's lunchtime. This is a guy that I know that I can have my way with. And to that point, Jarrett's just overmatched.
Well, it's in sports, obviously all games, it's a game of matchups, and those big physical guys inside, they do give Jarrett Allen issues. Now he's got to be able to counter that with length. He's got to be able to counter that with what he does best, and he doesn't do that in those matchups. Now Bryant, once again, do you change the rotation? The in sports, the next is always the best thing, right? The backup quarterback, the next guy in. There's something to do with chemistry, too. So for me, this Cavs team is still looking for chemistry, especially losing all those guys. When you look at, I was trying to look at, like, what are some of the things that happened last year? And the second unit was so good each and every night. And that second unit, none of those guys are there and right now, and they're kind of still counting on guys who are still learning. Tyson's been great, but he's still in that learning process. And I think it all comes down to, once again, it's like the quarterback in football. It's too much credit, too much blame. For me, he's getting way too much blame for this right now. Now, those rebounds are on him, but there's other factors involved.
Yeah.
But the only way you shot that, you got to go out and do it.
Because, dude, like, they like, to your point, like, he was playing so bad, they took him off the floor. Your $20-some million center is missing in action the last couple of minutes of the game because he was getting beat up so bad. But the guy that they replaced him with, and Evan Mobley, couldn't get a stop either. It was more of the same. So, yeah, while Jarrett Allen is shouldering a big piece of the blame, I do think at some point, it goes back to the conversation that we had last segment where some people want to put Kenny Atkinson on the hot seat. It's like, well, how many coaches are we going to cycle through before we look at the core four and say, hey, maybe this fit just isn't what we want it to be. Maybe this fit just isn't going to be the group that could get this team to where we want them to go. Even though we like all of these guys, and these guys individually are all really good players, and we've used so much time, money, resources, energy into developing them up. It's like, well, at some point the results have to come true as well. In this current group, whether you want to put the blame on, Allen, or there's a lot of DG detractors out there that want to put it on Garland. It's like, maybe this collective isn't what we want it to be, and I think we're going to get our answer on that at some point here very soon, whether they shake things up before February 5th's trade deadline, or if they just flame out in the playoffs like what they've done the last couple of seasons. I want to squeeze in Larry in Elyria, who's got some thoughts on why the Cavs lost on Christmas. What's going on, Larry?
Hey, happy holidays, Nick, you and Coach. What I saw, you guys, most time at the end there, we couldn't finish at the hoop. if you go back and look at that game and there the fourth quarter at the rim there, offensively, I think that was a major issue right there. We probably lost close to 8 to 12 points at least. We could go at the rim and finish the hoop. That's my opinion.
Larry, appreciate the call. I had a basketball coach growing up. I'll give him a shout. A shout out, Coach Larry Pierce. He would always tell us, and like this was like 5th grade basketball, right? But it's true, and it rings true in the NBA. He would repeat it ad nauseum, and it's like as a kid it would get under your skin, but now I'm like, man, he was onto something. Free throws and layups win basketball games. That's what he would tell us that on repeat. Sounded like a broken record, but it's true. Like if the Cavs made their layups yesterday late in the fourth quarter, you could have even overcome the rebound disparity that was certainly on display all throughout the fourth quarter, because again, it was a game where like the Cavs won the total rebound battle. They got beat on the offensive glass. Like it was a game that they should have won and they didn't, which is why I think you've got a lot of people frustrated.
Well, my point here's an interesting look at this. What the key in all sports is to set people up for success. We're saying 10 years, and I thought that was interesting. Allen's in his 10th year. I didn't even think about that. And if this is something he can't do, then don't make him do it. Right? If you sign Bryant because he's a bigger, tougher guy and he gave him issues, well, this is a game of matchups. And usually we only say this about Allen in the Knicks series, or these series that have these guys inside that are kind of tough and big and don't have a tremendous skill set, but are guys who are physical. Well, I don't care how much you pay him. Maybe in those matchups, you don't set him up. Don't put him in the situation for failure then. I don't know. I've always learned, my dad always taught me, don't worry about what a kid does poorly. Worry about what he does well and focus on that. Obviously, this has been an issue for Allen for a long time. If the Cavs are going with this, then they got to maybe adjust that thought process when they play the Knicks, when they play the teams that are going to get after them up front, because obviously maybe he brings something with chemistry. And it's really only these certain matchups that really give him issues. Maybe that's the adjustment.
And I do think there's something to be said on the phone as well, where like, it's the lights were too bright thing, like where he just has that in his makeup, where going to that Madison Square Garden, it just doesn't do well for him. The good news is for the Cavs is like they do have some upcoming measuring stick games, like Houston. That's a good basketball team right there. You saw what they did to the Lakers on Christmas Eve, on Christmas evening. The San Antonio Spurs, Wembanyama. I mean, what's he gonna do to Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley? So like you've got a couple of games here before the new year to figure out what you've got with this squad. But
does he give him the issues? Because he's not overly physical, right? Or can he hang in there?
I think we find out, Coach, because like I think it turns into like does to your point, does Jarrett tuck his tail in between his legs now after this bad showing and after this bad loss, or against two bigs that are premier in the NBA in Şengün tomorrow night against Houston, and then Wemby, who's one of the premier young players in the league? Like, can you bounce back? Can you respond? And I do think the Cavs will be looking at that, because you're in this high pressure season where you can't lose, or else changes will be coming this offseason. You only got till February 5th to make some trades and to shake things up, and you could be looking at a situation with Jarrett Allen where maybe you just decide it's addition by subtraction. And even if we have to trade him away for a bag of basketballs, we're going to trade him away for a bag of basketballs if it means getting him out of here and clearing the way for Evan Mobley. That's our Cavs update, brought to you guys by Surfside. Surfside Cavs update, brought to you by Surfside. Straight ahead, we are going to switch some gears. We've got Browns football this season, whether we like it or not, so we better start learning to like it. What do we want to see from the Browns on Sunday against the Steelers? 216-474-0092. It's Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland, with you guys till noon right here on The Fan.
earlier in the show, we'll get over to 923thefan.com or favorite the Fan on the Odyssey app for all of today's headline segments. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 923 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
Whenever you need to talk about the Browns, we got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Lights were too big for the Cavs, too bright maybe, in New York City. Hopefully that's not the case for the Browns on Sunday against the Steelers. I hate the Steelers. Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland, hanging out with me in studio with you guys here till noon on 92.3 The Fan. Coach, I can't believe that we're doing this, but because we've done this so many years, but we're definitely doing it. And it's a debate that's real, amongst my friend group, and that's the whole do you want the Browns to beat the Steelers thing because of the draft pick, or because you hate the Steelers? Do you want to see the Browns win, or does a lose benefit them more because of the draft stuff?
Oh, I couldn't be more on one side of this than anybody else. If you're not planning to win every game, people are saying, what should the preparation be? How culture in a football is not what you say, is what you do. So the preparation they have at this record as compared to what they have if they were 14-2 or whatever you want to say, if they were undefeated, the preparation should never change. That's what culture is. You can't control wins and losses. You can only control how you prepare and how you get ready for games. So once again, when people say they should lose because it helps with so the next people that come in, you're going to tell them, we picked you because we lost on purpose. And if you don't win, then we're going to pick someone else. That's, to me, is completely wrong. Now, I see it, and I see it from the financial thing as I've gotten into this and learned more about roster makeups and things of that nature. But to say that winning's okay, absolutely not. You go out there and I want the Steelers to have something to play for. If you're talking about an evaluation of your quarterback, you want the Steelers to have to play to their top ability, because then you're going to get the true evaluation of your quarterback, etc. So I could not disagree with that more. You play to win every single football game.
So it's so funny to hear that from your perspective as a coach, because from my perspective as a fan, and I grew up and I played basketball. I didn't play football really growing up. So but as a fan, why would you even tune in the game if you're hoping that the Browns lose? You're tuning in to hate watch the Browns. Now, I'll tune into when the Steelers play the Ravens. I'll tune into that just as an enjoyer of the sport. And sure, in those matchups, I watch with the hateful eye. I hope both teams lose those matchups when I watch those games. Or when the Bengals play an NFC opponent. Sure, I'll pick the Rams to beat up on Cincinnati any day of the week. But to watch the Browns and hope they lose for draft pick purposes. I get that it matters, and I get that this is a team right now that has a lot of holes. You need some help on your offensive line. You need some help in your receivers. You need to identify what you're doing with quarterback, whether you're sticking with one of these young kids or whether you're drafting one somewhere else. And if you have the number 2 pick or potentially even the number 1 pick, maybe a lot of these decisions for the football team get a whole lot easier. And I kind of looked at it. It's funny that you say that from the coaching perspective, that we lost these games on purpose, which is what leads us to hiring you, new coach. I look at it through a player perspective where we all are boasting up this rookie draft class, right? Of Quinshon Judkins and Mason Graham and all of Harold Fan and all of these young players that we really like. I don't want these players to get that same old Browns poison ball where they're cool rolling in here. They're cool with the losing, because I've talked to and I've had the privilege to work with a lot of ex-Browns from that post-1999 era where they'll admit season after season, the losing just became so much where it became accepted. It was commonplace. This is what we do. We show up on Sunday and sure, we try really hard. We want to win the game, but when we lose so consistently, it doesn't sting the same way. It doesn't hurt the same way that it did when they came into the National Football League. So I look at this, I'm man, you got a lot of Buckeyes on this roster. Mike Hall Jr., he was winning at Ohio State. Quinshon Judkins won a national championship with the Buckeyes. Mason Graham won a national championship with Michigan. Like, these guys have winning in their DNA and their pedigree. Like, I want these losses to piss them off. I want these losses to motivate them. And, like, the draft pick to me isn't worth that because we played that game so many times here as Browns fans. Like, where has that gotten us? It's gotten us right back to the same familiar place of playing for draft picks. It's like it hasn't gotten us somewhere. If it actually had gotten us somewhere and maybe that big 1-31 run had us as a Super Bowl contender right now, maybe I'd be singing a different tune. You know, maybe I'd be saying, you know what? Yeah, we went through the desert and we won 1 football games in 2 years, but it was worth it. We've got Lombardis in the shelves to show for it, but we don't. We've got nothing to show for it. That was less than 10 years ago, and we're back to the same exact spot. So, like, I can't get up Sunday morning and pull for the Browns to lose that game against Pittsburgh. I just can't do it.
Well, you know, football is an interesting game, and I've always thought it was the most, the most defying team sport. And what I mean is that it's not a faucet. You can't say, hey, we're going to tank these games, but when you come in, we're now going to turn it on. And that's that creature habit thing. That's the preparation thing. If you look at some of the old school coaches and how they talk and their ability. And once again, I'm actually a fan of how Kevin talks after the game because he takes all the blame on himself. It doesn't make everybody happy, but the Browns are in this, like, what do we have to do differently? You shouldn't have to do anything differently. You should be preparing to win every single game. That's what the players want to see. They want to know, they want the best player out there. If you like Shador and he's the best player, he should be out there. If you like whatever it is, you don't have to like the decision. There's got to be a plan. The only bad plan is no plan. But that's this idea of tanking. There's nothing that ruins a culture worse than the idea of we're okay with losing. Now, and if I look back at my coaching career, the thing that I was most upset with when I look back is I expected to win, and the losses hurt me a lot more than the wins made me feel good. That's where you want to be. You want to be where these losses sting, and you're like, all right, we do this. What else can we do to get over the top? The minute if you don't have expectations, you become apathetic, and then, like you said, losing becomes okay. It can't be okay. It cannot be okay. There's no moral wins. They got to figure it out, and tanking's not the way to do it.
No, and like, we'll get to this in a bit, but because, like, when you look at this game, Saturday's matchup and what happens Saturday between Baltimore and Green Bay could have a big influence on what happens in the Browns game against the Steelers, and we're going to get to that and what that means. But Tomlin could be sitting potentially a bunch of guys, so this becomes an even more winnable game for the Browns. And like, I brought that up in my group chat. My friends were like, well, if it gets too close, Haslam's going to make the call and they're going to lose the game intentionally for the draft pick. I'm like, I don't think you guys get how this works. Like, while strategically they might have things in place where, like, they want to lose games, quote unquote, like 1-31, right? They were the most inexpensive roster in football, and they were the cheapest roster in football, and they were the youngest. So, like, that was a very strategic decision that, hey, we're going to be pretty inexperienced. We're not going to cost a whole lot, but we're going to be in asset accumulation mode where we are going to use this inexperienced young roster as a way to build up cap space for the future, a way to build up draft picks for the future. And that was a very calculated way of doing things. This is a very different situation here because you've got a defense that's ready to go. You've got some of the greatest players in the league. Yeah, I know the Pro Bowl doesn't mean what it once did, but I think it showcased Myles Garrett, 1 of 1 at the pass rush position. Denzel Ward, 1 of few at the cornerback position, worth his ilk. So this is very different from where the Browns were at 1-31, and coaches don't tank. Players don't tank. Like, those guys want to go out there and win games, and I know that as a fact because they told everybody all offseason long, 3-14 is not going to cut it. 3-14 isn't good enough. That came directly from the owner. You're looking 3-14 dead down the barrel right now. So that would be my motivating message to the team was we said all offseason 3-14 ain't going to cut it. We got an opportunity to not be 3-14. Let's do that today. Right?
Well, and you can only control what you can control. And that's what you go when you're just saying that idea of that consistency, the ability to do things. It's a very long season. You have to have a structure in place, win or lose, what you're going to do to get ready for the next week. And right now, Browns shouldn't be thinking about anything except what they can do to beat the Steelers on Sunday. And now blocking out all the outside noise, that's pretty easy for the players and coaches, but they have to make sure that no matter what is said, you can't control your record, what you've done before. You can't control the Cincinnati game. All you can control is what you're going to do against the front, the coverage, the offense, what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. That's what your singular focus is. If you focus on what you can control, you got a chance to win a game. If you worry about what everybody else is saying, if you worry about then you have no chance. And tanking is one of those things. You're absolutely right. Coaches and players, they don't last very long if they're okay with losing. They just don't. And if the owner is making that call for me as a coach, then I can't coach there. I know these guys make lots of money, but if the person I'm in charge of says it's okay to lose, I don't ever want to be, when people are mad at me at my evaluations on Dylan, or people are mad because the Browns, that shows investment. They're passionate about what they want. It's not okay to lose. It's okay to be mad if you lose, and that's where I should not be comfortable to lose and lose consistently like they've done.
Yeah, and that's the pushback that I give to people that want to say that, the owner's okay with tanking. It's like, well, he said that he wasn't. He said this preseason that 3-14 wasn't going to cut it and that they wanted to be better. And his exact quote was, "We'll know what better looks like." And to me, this has not looked better. To me, with the defense has arguably looked better in spots at times throughout the season, struggled as of late, and we're going to get to the reasons as to why, and Coach is going to help us break down some of those run game deficiencies coming up a bit in the show. But it's like, the results are still 3-14, and to me, that's not good enough. And I think based off what the owner said this preseason, that's not going to be good enough for him either. And that's where changes come. That's where you got to look at the guys that you've got and ask yourself, are these guys cutting it come that first Monday morning once the regular season concludes? Am I right?
Yeah, no, and the thing that everybody has to understand about these Kevin Stefanski interviews, what he's done is he has accepted all this blame, and I appreciate that I have a head coach, because regardless of the play calls and regardless of the defense and the special teams, he has not once said anything about anything but we got to do better. And that's, as a head coach, I respect that. That's kind of that coaching code where, you know what, you're the head coach, you make the big money, you're accepting it. And that is sometimes, and once again, I've said this a bunch and people really don't like this. Kevin didn't get stupid, but his message is not getting through right now to his coaches and his players. And that's why in the NFL, 6 years is a long tenure in the NFL at this point in time. People don't accept, especially when you have down seasons. So change is coming. You don't know where it's going to be. I don't necessarily think it should be Kevin, but I completely understand if it is.
Man, could Mike Tomlin get his revenge on Andrew Berry for that Joe Flacco trade earlier this season? I'm going to tell you my theory on what old Coach Tomlin might have up his sleeve in 5 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. It's Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland with you guys till noon. Don't go anywhere.
the all-time leader in wins in the history of the program. Listen to the Fan Rewind, weeknights 11 p.m. to midnight. All the best segments from all our shows, and you can always listen on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes, right around 92.3 The Fan from the University Hospital Sports Desk. I'm Matt Corrali.
When you want the latest on the Cavs, we're the station you turn to first. 92.3 The Fan is Cleveland's home for breaking sports news. Your teams, your station.
As always, you can listen to this show and all of our local shows on The Fan on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland with me here till noon on 92.3 The Fan. I've got this theory that I want to float out for people at 216-474-0092 that Mike Tomlin could have his cake and eat it too when it comes to the Cleveland Browns ahead of this matchup in Week 17 on Sunday. We all remember when the Joe Flacco trade went down, right? And Mike Tomlin delivers that Andrew Barry might be smarter than all of us quip. You remember that, Coach, right?
Absolutely. A little shot at Andrew.
I think he's got his shot at revenge for Andrew Barry for that trade with the Bengals, because it looks by all accounts the Steelers are going to run away with the AFC North due to lack of other competition more than anything else. The Baltimore Ravens are sputtering. It seems like Lamar Jackson might not even play.
Yeah, they're saying doubtful.
Tomorrow night against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, if you're listed a guy as doubtful and the game is the next day, like he's probably out against the Green Bay Packers. So that would effectively clinch the AFC North for Pittsburgh. We could find out prior to Browns Steelers that the Steelers might not play many of their guys. That creates a scenario where it's a tremendously winnable football game for the Browns. Because if you actually look at how the Browns have been playing, like they move the ball against Buffalo. Like they were able to get a couple of first downs. And I know it's so difficult, and I know this probably grinds your gears, Coach, more than anything, because we live in this world of extremes with Browns football because Shador is so polarizing, where it's like, even though they did grow, the fact that it was a loss, like, well, then we're looking at Stefanski and we're looking at Stefanski replacements. And because Shador's DVOA was less than 2 yards, like, people are freaking out, saying that you need to get Fernando Mendoza in here and it's got to be Dante Moore and, like, you absolutely have to move on from this guy. We're quietly, like, they scored 20 points. They did what we've been imploring for them to do. Like, they showed signs of growth offensively. So I look at this and, like, if Tomlin rests his guys, this becomes a winnable game for the Browns because of how stout this defense is, because Shador is growing in Kevin Stefanski's offense. And then for all you people that want to tank and that want the number 1 or number 2 overall pick in the draft, well, if you beat the Steelers, you could forget about watching Giants Raiders for your race to the bottom, because effectively you will have played your way out of a top 3 pick with a victory against the Steelers on Sunday. I think Mike Tomlin gets his last laugh at Andrew Barry. The reason why, because he's going to win the AFC North. He's going to get back to the playoffs. He's going to secure his winning season that he cares so much about. But also, he could prohibit the Cleveland Browns from drafting one of these quarterbacks in April's draft if Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore are kind of the first 2 players off the board, like all the mock drafters think they will right now in December. I think Tomlin could have his cake and eat it too on us here.
Well, I will say this, and that should be a upper brass kind of decision. If I'm Kevin Stefanski, I don't care. And for me as a coach, the only thing that would bother me is that then you're not going to get the true looks from the Steelers. You're going to get a lot more man coverage. Now the Steelers are going to be in evaluation mode. And now the reason I'm cheering for the Ravens to win is that I want the Steelers to have to play this game. Because if the Steelers have to play this game, they're going to keep everything in front. They're going to test Shador to make sure he takes those checkdowns, which I thought he did a wonderful job of doing. People want him to stretch the ball vertically. If that's not where the defense takes you, then you got to take what they get. He'll have a lot more of those shots. So people might get what they want. But for me as a coach, I want to see Shador have to do those things. He's good at throwing the ball vertically. Teams know he's good at throwing the ball vertically. And if the Steelers have to win, they're going to force him to check it down and work the ball underneath, which I think is is important for his development. So as a coach, I don't particularly care what happens again, and hopefully they don't either. They should not be looking at what the Ravens do. They should be simply focused on who are the Steelers, what are the Steelers doing, and how do we attack them. And for me, for the growth at quarterback and what the draft could be for the Browns if they feel Shador's their guy, it's so big. So I want the Steelers to have to play this out so Shador gets a look at a team that has a pretty good defense and some great schematic things that hurt him that he'd have to do. That's what I want to see.
I almost wonder, that's probably what the Browns want to see too, right? Because they keep saying that they're in this evaluation mode. Well, like, if you want to get a true evaluation on the guy, you want him playing real, meaningful football games. Like, you don't want this to turn into a scenario where, like, your last 2 weeks of the season are effectively preseason football games. And that was always my fear with this 4-man quarterback thing that they were going to do. Was we've seen this and we've lived through this too many times, where when the losing does stack up, I mean, look at what we've got in front of us here, Coach. Like, this offensive line is completely patched together. They started their 9th different starting offensive line unit against Buffalo. You know, the receivers are what they will. Like, you are right now got multiple guys that we didn't even really have any stock in during the preseason. In Larvidan, who was the preseason hero, and Malachi Corley. This run game, Raheem Rocket Sanders and Travion Williams, who had that on their bingo card. So, like, Shador's not playing with a full deck. I think that goes without saying. But, like, I want to see him play against Pittsburgh's top crew, because I'm evaluating him just like the Browns probably are. Like, I want to figure out, is Shador Sanders my path forward, or do I have to go back to the well? Am I going back to drafting a quarterback? And the one thing that Shador Sanders could do, and I think everybody, whether you're a Shador fan or whether you're one of his haters, I think everybody agreed on, well, the one thing that he can do is play so well that he wins games and knocks the Browns out of that draft positioning to draft his replacement. And that's the opportunity that awaits him against Pittsburgh. Like, if you win that game and you play well, you will have another feather in your cap, like the Raiders game, like the Titans game. And even though those aren't great opponents, you'll be able to say, well, I played well. And for the sake of the Raiders game, well, I won. If he beats Pittsburgh, well, I won. I became the first quarterback since, Dorian Thompson-Robinson to defeat the Steelers, and Jameis Winston last year in the snow that beat the Steelers. So, like, I do think this game, even though it is kind of feels meaningless, like, there's still a lot of reason to tune in, because the future of the franchise quite literally could be at stake. Like, to me, it's that impactful long term.
Well, I'm not, I will say this. I'll start with, when he played really well against the Raiders and they won, and he played against the Titans, they're like, oh, it was those guys. I disagree. These are NFL teams. These guys are all really good. So I've been critical of his play and try to be honest what I see on film. So he played well because he played well. Then you saw what happened in some other games. So what he's learning is that, especially at the NFL level, you got to have some pieces around you. And he's learned that in the hard way. You see Flacco go to Cincinnati. Well, it helps who you're throwing to. So for him, if he's not going to get these wins, and even if there's nothing involved in the game because the Ravens lose, he's got to make sure that he puts in their mind that he is shown what did the Steelers do on defense and where do I go with the football. I have to make sure my footwork's right. I have to make sure he can't control pass protection. He cannot control who drops the ball. He can't control where he throws the football. He can't control that he knows where his checkdowns are. He can't control his body language. He can't control the things that he can do. That's all he can do. The pieces around him aren't very good right now. And those are the same things that happen with all quarterbacks, is that when you play really well, like he did against the Titans, it wasn't in spite of anybody. It was because all his teammates helped him, and he was a part of that. And when he played poorly or has had his poor moments, it's also because of partly him and his teammates. It's a very team-oriented thing. So even though if there's not anything to play for in terms of wins and losses, first of all, you want to win every game, but make sure you're doing your part. That's all you can do.
It's such a fascinating conversation with him because it's so polarizing, like one way or another. And like, I think the big gripe that people had out of his performance against Buffalo was the fact that it was a lot of checkdowns. Like, it was a lot of what Dylan Gabriel did and what people got up in arms and beat up Dylan Gabriel about. But that was one of the things that we wanted to see from Shedeur, right? Like we know that he likes the big ball, like the long ball. We know that he has an affinity for that. He keeps his eyes downfield. He wants to press. He wants to try things. He wants to take his shots. But I actually thought Sunday's game against the Bills was a net positive for Sanders because he took what the defense was giving him. Like he was consistently checking the football down. Like leading up to that Bills game, Tommy Rees, Kevin Stefanski, like in their availabilities, they were honest and they said that like completion percentage was a big thing that they were working on with Shedeur. He mentioned that as well. He said he talked to Jameis Winston of all people about his completion percentage and about, throwing for a lot of yards is cool, but you want to make sure you're taking care of the football. You want to make sure these come in wins, was Jameis's message to the young quarterback. So that was the message to him. And then he went out there and to me, he executed it, right? Like he went up there and he had a nice completion percentage, even though it wasn't what the fans were necessarily looking for. Am I right or am I crazy in saying that?
No, you're absolutely right. And this is a great point, and I'm so glad you brought it up. So when, as I had very high evaluations on he and Dylan, and here's the difference between checking it down, especially at the end of when Dylan was playing the last couple games. When you check the ball down, you're now going to get true coverages. So when Dylan was checking the ball down early, it was because that's what they were giving him. Now, if you take the check down, but there's a vertical concept or a second layer or a third layer open, that's when check downs become, why are you taking the check down? So for Shedeur, when he took the check downs against the Bills said, we're going to force you to check down. So if he was to take the vertical or the deep ball, that would have been a bad decision by him. Even if they go catch it, even if they somebody makes a great play, that's a poor decision. So now if you have the check down, but something's open deeper, then you take the deeper concept. The Bills were not giving that to him. So I thought he made great decisions. The word I always look, never pass up a free meal, because if you continuously take those free meals, you're going to see those flats being covered. Now you're going to see people jump underneath routes, which are going to open second levels. They're going to open seam routes. They're going to open the hole in cover 2. But until he's proven that he can do that, which he did last week. So as a coach, people say, the term that Kevin Stefanski made him check the ball down. No, he didn't. I give credit to Shedeur. Shedeur said, this is what the defense gave me. I'm going to take it. And that's a credit to not only Shedeur, but he also listened to his coaching. That's awesome by him.
It's so fascinating because that was the message to him throughout the week. Because I know that because they were public with it.
If it's open deep, take it. If not, take what they give you, and that's what he did last week.
Like they publicly said to the reporters during the availability, and it was consistent. Shedeur said this about himself and what he needed to do against Buffalo. Stefanski said it. Tommy Rees said it, that we want to work with him on his completion percentage, and we want to work with him on taking what the defense will give him. And we know that he's got the big arm. We know that he wants to test things vertically, but sometimes taking the easy thing is that easy and it could move the sticks, and that happened against Buffalo, and ultimately I think that's what led to a 3-score game, and it was positive growth for Shedeur. You did mention Kevin Stefanski there, and straight ahead I do want to get into what's in store for Kevin Stefanski, and could we actually be 2 weeks away from the biggest Browns change that we've seen in over half a decade. We know what probably will happen, but should it happen? 216-474-0092. Kevin Stefanski, stay or go. Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland with you guys right here on The Fan.
I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine, here to help you beat the books with the Bet M.
The Chiefs 20-13 in KC. Get all the latest Browns content filtered right to your phone this regular season by following the Browns playlist and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
Headline sports news every 20 minutes from the University Hospital's Sports Desk. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Daryl Ryder is set to join the show here in about 20 minutes. Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland hanging out with you guys on a Friday morning here on 92.3 The Fan. Talking all things Browns. We're going to hear from you guys. 216-474-0092. Kevin Stefanski. Feels like we've got to have this conversation at some point in the show, so might as well just put it here. Coach, I wanted to get your thoughts on just his future in Cleveland. I get that we've got these two games that are coming up, but I think for a lot of people, myself included, I look at this situation and it's just at what point does the losing overcome everything else? And I think dissimilar to a lot of people, I think I'm probably more fair to Kevin than a lot of people that, have platforms that are loud about Kevin. I appreciate the pants off of what he did earlier in his tenure with the Browns. I don't think that can be understated. I do think that there is a good coach in there. I do think that this is a guy, though, that just lost his voice somewhere, somehow, and back-to-back 3-win seasons, you probably just don't survive that in the National Football League. I know that there's a lot of chatter that, if he's fired, that he's going to become a top candidate elsewhere. My message to that whole thing would be, don't live in your fear. If you want to fire Kevin Stefanski, fire Kevin Stefanski independently of where he could end up. Sure, he could end up in Tennessee with Cam Ward and turn that around to be something. He could end up in New York with the Giants and Jackson Dart and maybe turn him into something. But you can't let that could impact your decision, because I'm ultimately of the belief that you look at his offense and you look at the, NFL is an ultimate what have you done for me recently league. I think it's much more likely Kevin Stefanski spends some time off as an advisor or as a coordinator prior to jumping right into a head coaching job, even though I do think there will be plenty of job available. I just don't buy that he's going to go get fired. Some of these national reporters are well, he's going to get fired and have a job tomorrow as a head coach. I don't know that I necessarily believe that. Maybe he gets fired and he'll have a job tomorrow as an OC or as an advisor somewhere, but I don't think he's going to leave Cleveland and scorn us. So ultimately, if they want to make the harsh decision after the season that we all kind of feel like could be coming down the pipe, I think it's there. You probably got to make it, and you probably got to usher in a new chapter of Browns football.
Well, I've been on record, and I think this is more about the personnel and what they've put out there. But the bottom line is, it is a product-based league. It's a product-based job, and the product has not been very good. And and I've been on record saying Kevin Stefanski didn't get stupid, and I absolutely believe that. I also believe that his message right now is not getting through to his players. It's not getting through to his coaches, and they're not winning. And that's what happens when you coach. Now, I respect Kevin because he's never ever pushed it off on anybody else, and I think that's really hard to do, especially when things get really tough, which they have. Now, when people say that he's going to get hired somewhere else, the things you're saying, if he gets fired, the press conference will be very complimentary. Thank you for the opportunity. It was great. We didn't win enough, all those things. So, there's an owner out there that likes that calm demeanor, whether it's right or wrong. A lot of the people say his offense is vanilla. His offense is predictable. I'd argue that has a lack of execution, and there's a lot of lack of talent. And sometimes as coaches, we only know what we know, and he can only, not more than that, he can only fix what he knows. And whatever that offense is, that's why he got hired. So that's the kind of the scheme they run. Now, it's not working, and that's why the NFL, the tenure is so short. In the NFL now, especially, there's no time to lose, especially, and they've given him time. And they have had talent, and they've gotten rid of people, and he's struggled with, I'm not a big believer in, he hasn't had his quarterback. He's had his quarterback.
Right.
I do think he's a good coach. I think his message is not getting across. I do think he would be a hot commodity. I don't know exactly what that'd be, but his personality and his ability to be organized, and when I watch their practices, they know what they're doing. They're situationally right. The message is just not getting through, and sometimes that happens as a coach. He's a guy I like. He's a guy I respect. But right now, they're not winning, and that's what it comes down to. Regardless of what your thoughts are, you got to win, and they're not doing it.
I give pushback as well on the whole, he hasn't had his quarterback thing, because if you look at it, whether Stefanski likes it or not, and I don't know if he likes it. I would love nothing more than when this is all said and done to hook him up to a polygraph so we could get some actual answers on what went down over these last 6 years. I know it's not going to happen, but the fact of the matter is, you signed up to coach an organization that was quarterbacked by Baker Mayfield. That was your guy at one point in time, because you signed up for this job. You went for this job twice. You went for this job when they gave it to Freddie Kitchens, and then ultimately the time that you landed it. And that project, it played its course. We played out Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. They thought they had to make a decision to move on from him. Whether that was the right or wrong decision, conversation for a different time. Then Deshaun Watson, you bring that in here, and whose decision was that? We don't know. We'll never know. I think it was a group decision that I think they all got on board with, and you went out there and you got that guy, and he wasn't the answer. Then you had success with a couple of guys in the intermitter area of all that, where you had the PJ Walkers and the Jacoby Brissetts, and DTR beat the Steelers one time for some reason. And then this year, I think with the Dylan Gabriel thing, and the fact that they inflated air into Dylan's tires the way that they did all throughout the preseason with the supercomputer stuff. And I think they kind of disregarded the fact that Dylan was a bit of a project quarterback, because they had a fellow project quarterback in the room with him in Shedeur Sanders, and two guys that both needed developed and they both needed time. I think it was easy to point at Shedeur for Kevin and be like, well, in my eyes, this guy is further behind the eight ball than Dylan. So this guy then by proxy is supercomputer, and he's this mad genius that's had all this experience, and we're going to trust him and we're going to let him do anything before Shedeur. I think that was it's so strange, but Kevin was kind of always stubborn, that the stubbornness was his pitfall here in Cleveland. The stubbornness of, I got to go with Dylan, I got to go with my guys over what conventional logic and what everybody else tells you, and that you got a high ceiling guy in Shedeur, just put him on the field. If this is an evaluation year where we're throwing stuff at the wall and we're figuring out what sticks, I always thought it was a mistake to put Dylan Gabriel on the field. I feel like you wasted 5 weeks in the middle of the season, and I ultimately feel like that's what cost Kevin Stefanski his job in Cleveland. The fact that you lost to the Tennessee Titans, you lost to the New York Jets, you lost to the Minnesota Vikings, those were all winnable games that, had you just done a couple of things differently, or had you just won those games, you could still be here next year. I feel like that's ultimately what does them in.
Well, the idea of Dylan wasting Dylan, I didn't think that was a waste. I thought when you look at what they saw, and once again, that's why it's lonely on top as a head coach. He had his thoughts, and whether they were right or wrong, that's what ends up happening. And once again, I try to keep it to what I watched on film and what I saw in Dylan Gabriel in terms of being able to throw play action on first down, changing the launch point, playing, throwing for 18,000 yards, having 155 touchdown passes, doing all those things, being able to. The idea that he was a supercomputer and Shedeur needed work. I never understood that narrative. Shedeur
nuts.
Shedeur is very good at reading coverages and things of that nature too. He had no pass protection at Colorado, so I didn't understand that narrative. But I also understood that, getting rid of the football quickly will negate some of your height issues because you're not letting that line get to you. That didn't really work out. And once again, it's sticking to what you think. Once again, my evaluation may be wrong on Dylan Gabriel because it's not panned out yet. I still think it's too early, but that's part of the deal too. So whether he felt that or not, once again, I always thought when Dylan played poorly against the Patriots and he said he's my starter next week. I actually liked that because I thought it was going to be beneficial to Shedeur because I knew Shedeur is also going to go through some ups and downs, and you got to let these guys kind of play through that if you're truly evaluating them. Now, once again, I didn't think it was a waste as most people did, and I appreciate that people have their own thoughts on that too. My evaluation said this is a good fit for the Browns offense. Now, as Shedeur's come in, more than his stats, he's been impactful, and I think that's very important too. His teammates really seem to rally around him. That's part of playing quarterback too, and you got to give Shedeur credit when you watch him on film. The things that everybody has critiques on, he's improved. The things that, his footwork, his ability to take the checkdowns, those are things you're seeing. He's being coachable, and he's not doing it because he has to do it on his own. He's being very, very coachable and also making plays on his own. But the bottom line is Kevin hasn't won, and he'll be the first to tell you, if you don't win, you're on your way out. And that's what's happened the last 2 years. And once again, I give him credit because I'm not sure if he really wanted to play Shedeur or how it worked. But again, he said all the right things. And whether you like that or not, and once again, I think I had Shedeur high on my list too. I never understood some of the narratives on both of these guys, but good for that kid. He's come in and he's taken a tough situation. He's done good things with it.
Yeah, he definitely has, especially because it was a tough situation. Like with the supercomputer label that got thrown around, it was so crazy to me. And the fact that Andrew Barry went on the Browns pregame broadcast, which is produced in-house. So everything's supposed to be sunshine and rainbows, kumbaya. And here I've got the general manager of the football team saying that for Shedeur, learning Kevin Stefanski's offense compared to what he did at Colorado is learning Mandarin when you've been speaking English your entire life. And I just thought that was so strange. And he explained that Dylan's got an upper hand in this because he's got that vast college football starting experience. He played at 3 different major programs. And I just thought it was nuts. I'm they're treating this guy as if he's a football idiot. He rolled out of bed and he just started playing football for the first time, where it's this guy's got a Hall of Fame lineage. This guy, he's been a quarterback his entire life. They were treating him like he was some sort of second-class citizen compared to Dylan Gabriel. And I just wonder that if we would have put that energy over 5 weeks into developing up Shedeur versus Dylan, and it was why I disagreed with the two rookie quarterbacks, is why I disagreed with the 4-man quarterback competition, because had we just given that energy to Shedeur, I wonder if we would have been further along in our evaluation where we sit now. And I wonder if we maybe wouldn't be having all of these questions after each and every pass that the guy throws of, can he be an answer in 2026, or do we need to draft another guy? I think we could be further along in all of this. And I get hindsight's always 2020, but that's the reality that we live in. And now we could be living in a reality where it's going to be up to a new head coach to decide whether Shedeur or Dylan stay or go in Cleveland. 216-474-0092. Jeffrey and Don, I see you guys hanging on. In 5 minutes, our Cleveland Browns beat reporter, Daryl Ryder, he has called Kevin Stefanski a scapegoat. He joins myself and Coach Lance Reisland straight ahead on 92.3 The Fan. Don't go anywhere.
has emerged as the focus of Michigan's coaching search. Whittingham led Utah for the last 20 seasons, becoming the all-time leader in wins in program history. Our Browns beat reporter Daryl Ryder is coming up next. Headline sports news every 20 minutes, right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
Tune in to Ken Carmen and Anthony Lima, 6 a.m. on Monday morning for all the best Browns reaction. And now, catch the show live on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel.
Lance Reisland hanging out with you guys on a Friday morning here on 92.3 The Fan. Gonna waste no time. Go out to the fan hotline. Not yet. Jack's telling me don't go there yet. We are moments away from being joined by our Cleveland Browns beat writer, Daryl Ryder. Gonna break down some Cavs with him coming off that Christmas Day matchup. Going to break down all of the latest in Brownstown as well. One thing that I don't want to have happen to us here, Coach, and it's like it's comfortable. Like we talked about, you never want to get comfortable with losing. The one thing that I don't want to have happen to us as a sports town is where we get kind of like stuck in the middle, like kind of where like Atlanta is at right now, where like the Hawks are just perpetually a play-in team. The Falcons are a little bit up and down, but more so down than up. The Braves won a championship, but haven't done much since. Like I want to make sure that we don't wind up like Atlanta. And it feels like we're kind of in this pit right now where the Cavs don't have their business in order, and we were really counting on them to have their business in order. The Browns, you know what you're going to get, unfortunately, when you signed up for this season. Not many people thought they were going to be too much better than where they're at right now. And then the Guards, they haven't done anything. So it is an up and down sports calendar. It always is, and it's nice that we can have people like Daryl that could cover all three. But I want to make sure that we're not getting too complacent with losing around these parts. We got to get back to winning with one of these teams at some point here soon.
Well, that's where where I have to be like flexible in my thoughts, because I'm always about win. And you're right. Sometimes where the Browns are, if you continue to win, so these last couple of games, if you win, which I think is vitally important, then does that take you out of what you want draft wise? Culture versus like what the numbers tell you. There's that fine line of like, I've always been like, use your feel, use the numbers to help your feel, and what can you get done? How can you tank without tanking? All those kind of things. Those are important things that I never really take into account from my angle. My angle is always, if I'm 0-16, then I'm gonna be 1-16, because that's the way I've always learned how to coach and play. But yeah, you kind of get stuck in that middle where if you're not terrible and you're not great, you don't get the picks, kind of. You don't get to where you want to get to, and that's a hard line.
And I don't want to see us get there like as a city, as a collective. Like we need one of these teams to be good, and that's why we go out to the fan hotline. We're standing by. We do have our Cleveland sports beat reporter Daryl Ryder. His reports are brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Daryl, thank you so much for joining us on a Friday. Hope you had a great Christmas yesterday, bro, and hope it was a little bit better than the Cavs in that fourth quarter.
It was. I think anything would have been better than the Cavs in the fourth quarter. I guess we have the Guardians, right? Not going to have the Browns. Not going to have the Cavs, it appears. So maybe the Guardians. Fingers crossed.
Could you play center field for them, Daryl? Could you hit a couple of home runs? I think that's what they're after right now.
No, I played left out in high school, so I would not make a good center fielder.
Gotcha. That's all right. Nothing wrong with that. Well, what did you make of that Cavs game yesterday? Did that game make you feel better or worse about the current state of affairs with the Cavaliers? Because it was off the heels of two back-to-back victories. They were up 17 points, but we know how it ends.
Yeah, I felt the funny thing is I was just about to post on X, hey, all is well with the Cavs. They look good to me and all that, right? And then I saw the Knicks start to chip away. Brunson started hitting threes, and I'm like, I'm going to hold off on this because I could potentially end up giving the Cavs the kiss of death. And I didn't want to do that on Christmas. So it's a Cavs fan. And then, yeah, that whole collapse thing happened. So I actually feel worse about the whole situation right now, quite frankly. And, I just have to wonder if the clock is now ticking on Kenny Atkinson with this team currently sitting with a potential $400 million bill. And they're looking at a play-in tournament berth, which is not anywhere near close to where they were a year ago. So I am legitimately concerned about the Cavaliers. I've been trying to downplay it. I've been trying to, it's still early in the season. It's not even Christmas yet. Well, Christmas is come and gone. And they choked away a 17-point fourth-quarter lead. So I think the fire alarms are going off when it comes to the Cavaliers right now.
Good morning, Daryl. Happy holidays to you, my friend.
Hey, long time no speak, there, Coach.
That's right, long time. I got a question. We were talking about the Cavs earlier, and kind of everybody's talked about it doesn't matter what they do during the regular season. Everything's going to kind of be based on what they do when they get in the playoffs. I'm kind of the belief that's kind of when I'm going to evaluate Atkinson. Is that kind of fair, or do you think he needs to start getting it rolling now, or is it going to be based just on what he does in the playoffs?
Well, they got to get to the playoffs first. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's a legitimate concern right now. Because if you go through the play-in tournament, there's no guarantee you're getting out of the play-in tournament. So yeah, they gotta get into the playoffs first. And I mean, if this keeps up, Atkinson may not be around for the postseason, whether it's the play-in tournament or sitting around waiting for someone to come out of the play-in tournament. So I enter this season feeling the same way, Lance. Let's just get through the regular season, right? Let's just get this thing over with, then get into the playoffs, and that's when it really gets rolling. I didn't anticipate that this team would be struggling as much as they are, considering it's the same basketball team. It's not like they brought in a bunch of pieces and parts in the offseason and made a bunch of changes to try and get better or to whatever, right? This is the same basketball team than last year. And so the fact that they can't really get it going right now is very, very concerning to me.
Well, Daryl, if you had to make a prediction, is it more likely that they shake up this core four right now, or is it more likely that they make a change with their coach? I get that it's hard to make trades and stuff with this second apron, but it feels like something has to change because this was supposed to be the season where the East was supposed to be so wide open that you weren't supposed to have a straight shot to playing the Knicks in the conference finals. So something has to change so we could get to that point. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. And look, I have been in favor of the last two seasons as much as I love Jarrett Allen. I have been saying they need to trade Jarrett Allen, and they haven't done it. Well, and look, there were stretches of that game yesterday where I'm watching, I'm like, all right, Jarrett, that's what we're looking for from you. And then there were stretches where like, oh, man, like we can't have that right now from you, Jarrett. So I think that he's too much of a finesse player. And that's the change I would make with the core four. But I think that the odds are, to answer your question, Nick, I think the odds are in favor of them making a coaching change because Kobe Altman's really dug in and committed to this core four and to this team. And so that's why I feel like Kenny's on the hot seat all of a sudden here.
Wow. All righty. Daryl, coming out, Kenny Atkinson could actually be on the hot seat for our Cavs. Hard to disagree with you in that logic that you just laid out, Kobe.
Well, listen, winning NBA Coach of the Year is usually the kiss of death.
It is. Look at ask Michael Malone, ask Dwayne Casey.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the last 6 Coach of the Year winners were fired within 18 months of them winning that award. So, I mean, life's hard in the big city there in the National Basketball Association. But, yeah, if this team doesn't get it going here pretty soon, it wouldn't shock me if the Gilberts made a move and let Kenny go.
And the schedule doesn't help them next couple weeks.
Oh, the schedule. Oh, my goodness, yeah. It's pretty tough in the next couple of weeks here, and that's why now you understand why I'm concerned.
All right, I want to switch some gears from one hot seat to the next, as we've got to ask you about Kevin Stefanski and what Week 17's matchup against the Steelers could mean for him. Is there any chance, Daryl, that he can save his job over the next 2 weeks, or is this a scenario where we're really just playing out the string with our Browns here?
Well, I don't think ownership's made their decision yet and what they're going to do. But from my standpoint, the decision really should have been made either way, keeping him or letting him go. Because these last 2 weeks, and Lance and I did 4 hours on this on Christmas Eve, but I can't imagine that these final 2 games should reshape your worldview of the existing state of this team. I don't think that there's a tremendous swing either way between 3 wins or 4 wins or 5 wins. I don't think they're winning the final 2 games of the season anyway, and that's even with the Steelers potentially putting their reserves on the field Sunday. The Steelers are practicing and treating this week like their season's on the line. The Browns, and I'm not criticizing this because I get it. It's been a long season. Steelers practiced yesterday. The Browns didn't. And I have zero. I want to make very clear. I'm not criticizing Kevin Stefanski or the Browns. Look, you got 3 wins. Your season's over. Let your players go spend the holiday with their families. Like that's fine. I have no issue with it. But it just, I also too kind of contrasts the differences in where these organizations are, right? So, Pittsburgh's treating this like their season's on the line, at least going into it. We'll find out what happens Saturday night between the Packers and the Ravens. If the Packers win, the Steelers can take the next 2 weeks off. If the Ravens are able to beat the Packers, we'll see if Lamar Jackson even plays. Then all of a sudden, the Steelers have to have their foot on the gas Sunday afternoon, and we're all going to be watching whether or not Myles Garrett can set that sack record. I think there's a better chance that he draws about 10 holding penalties than him getting a sack against the Steelers on Sunday because, well, that's just how Pittsburgh operates.
Daryl, you and I talked a bunch about the Andrew Barry and Kevin, are they a package deal or not? In your opinion, and I think we see it the same way here, why has Kevin gotten so much heat and yet Andrew Barry hasn't with the offensive talent that's on this roster?
Well, that's the multi-million-dollar question I've been asking as well, Lance, because I do feel like they are a package deal, and they should be. Now all of a sudden, because that's what we've heard for 5 years, right? And that not just from them, but that came from ownership. That came from the Haslams that, hey, these guys are thought partners and all this other stuff, and they're joined at the hip, and they see eye to eye and whatnot. Well, we started to find out this year that all of a sudden they may not be seeing eye to eye, and I think it really came to a head with the quarterback approach during training camp, as well as the trade of Joe Flacco to the Bengals early in the season, because usually Kevin Stefanski toes the company line, and that was really the first time where he didn't toe the company line when he said there wasn't a world in which I thought Joe Flacco was getting traded this year, and that put my antennas up like, oh, either somebody wasn't in the loop that this was happening or somebody is very unhappy that this is happening, and now he's got to play a couple of rookie quarterbacks, and shortly thereafter having to play Dylan Gabriel. Kevin Stefanski washed his hands of the play calling situation, turning that over to Tommy Rees, which kind of gave me flashbacks to the previous year, right, when it was Ken Dorsey who had to be brought in to replace Alex Van Pelt because they needed him to get Deshaun Watson going, and then that never really materialized. And Kevin, also there washed his hands of the play calling responsibility, handing that off to Dorsey. So I don't understand why there seems to be different standards. I realize Andrew did a good job and the front office did a good job with this particular draft class. Mason Graham's a hit, it looks like. Carson Schlesinger, absolutely hit. He's going to be your defensive rookie of the year, at least he should be. Harold Fannin Jr. has been outstanding, right? It is a very good draft class for this team, but also at the same time, this is like the first year where Andrew Barry added tangible talent, difference-making talent to this roster outside of the Amari Cooper trade. The Jerry Jeudy trade has not been great this year. He had one good year last year, and he's back to being the player he was in Denver, and that's unfortunate. And I understand there's mitigating circumstances with the quarterbacks. They've brought in 13 of these quarterbacks. Andrew Barry was driving the bus on the Deshaun Watson trade, even though, yes, I understand he wasn't the only one that made the final decision there. but he was driving the bus. He wanted Deshaun, and so I think there needs to be some accountability there. If you're going to hold Kevin's feet to the fire and say he's responsible for winning just 6 games in these each of the those last 2 seasons combined here, well then why isn't there some culpability for Andrew Barry? And listen, I said this with you, Lance, on Christmas Eve. I'm not trying to run either one of these guys out of town. I don't have an agenda here. I don't have anything against Andrew Barry and Kevin Stefanski. In fact, I like and respect both of them tremendously, but I got to call it the way I see it, and I got to be objective and fair about it and set my personal feelings aside. I think they're both responsible for these last 2 seasons, and so if you're going to hold people accountable, you should hold them both accountable and not just Kevin Stefanski.
Daryl, you mentioned, Kevin Stefanski kind of felt like it really did wash his hands of this season when he handed off the play calling duties to Tommy Rees. So, if he's kind of quote-unquote checked out, and you didn't say that, but I think let's call it for what it is.
I want to be very clear. I've not said that Kevin Stefanski's checked out.
No, but, if he's washing his hands of this, and we are playing out the string on what feels like a lost season, my question is, why do they have this organizational philosophy, and we certainly see it with the special teams, where they're so adamantly against making a change in season? Why wouldn't you try to see if Jim Schwartz could get the guys fired up for a game, or if some special teams assistant could try to stop these gaffes from happening week in, week out? It seems like they're hell-bent on just playing out the string here.
Well, I think there's a couple of roads you could take on that. One would be, is it really going to make a difference? Okay? There is some truth to what Bubba Ventrone said a couple of weeks ago. This is the roster we've been handed. It is what it is, folks. Right? There is some truth to that. Even though I think he should have kept that in the back pocket, but I respect the honesty from him. And the other part of it is a commitment to these guys. And hey, let's keep hammering away. Let's see if we can right the ship and get this thing on track. I think that's why, Nick, because they fired Hugh Jackson in the middle of the season, turned it over to Greg Williams. They won 5 of 8 to end that season. So I think that's what it is. It's just a commitment to the coaching staff to give them an opportunity to get the train back on the tracks. Unfortunately, that has not happened.
All right, Daryl, over the next 2 weeks, obviously not a lot to play for the Browns from an outside perspective. What do you think they want to see, not only with Shedeur, but other guys on this team? Are they going to be trying to find guys that can maybe help this team in the future years, or are they kind of just playing out the string here?
No, this is a very important 2 weeks, not only for Shedeur Sanders, but some of the younger players, and even veterans too, because there's guys on this team that will not be back next year that want to play in 2026, and so their tape is going to be evaluated, not just by the Browns front office, but by the other 31 teams in the NFL. So this is a very important week, or I should say 2 weeks, for everybody on the roster, because while the season has been washed out, you are playing for employment next year, be it here in Cleveland or elsewhere.
Daryl, if you had to make your guess today, the day after Christmas 2025, calendar hasn't even flipped to 2026. In your opinion, has Shedeur Sanders done enough to be an option for the Browns in 2026?
From my standpoint, yes. He's far from a polished product, but he has my curiosity, and I would like to see more of him. But, and this is the Brownsiest thing ever, if they draft the quarterback in the first 2, with their first pick, right?
Yep.
Probably number 2 overall. Shedeur's future here is over. And you're probably going to have to trade him, assuming you can find someone that'll take him. Because I don't know if Shedeur would be willing to be a backup quarterback. But he has handled everything this year well. He was the 4th quarterback, right? And Dylan Gabriel has a higher completion percentage, 59.5 to 55.1 for Shedeur, 7-2. Gabriel's touchdown interception ratios, leaps and bounds better, but their TD percentage is almost identical. Their like the other metrics are better, but like Gabriel just doesn't feel like he gives you the same big play potential that Shedeur does, which you need in the National Football League these days. So the numbers actually skew a little in Gabriel's favor, but I just think that Shedeur really needs to come out these last two games and just really light it up, because my gut tells me they're going to want to draft a quarterback with that number 2 pick, assuming that's what they end up with, because they're going to have 3 of the top 33, which would then allow them to use whatever Jacksonville's pick is, along with the first pick in the second round, on players to support that new young quarterback. I would love 3 players to support Shedeur Sanders, but again, when you have the number 2 pick in the draft, which is where the Browns are projected to be picking, that's really hard to pass up there.
He is our Browns beat reporter, Daryl Ryder. Daryl, appreciate you joining us. Appreciate your time. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday.
You too, guys. Happy holidays.
Later, Daryl. All right.
Talk soon, buddy.
Nick Pedone, Lance Reisland with you guys on the Fan till noon. We'll react to what Daryl had to say. All things Cavs and Browns. Don't go anywhere on 92.3 The Fan.
Follow and listen to Heed the Call NFL podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
The Fan congratulates Paul Hoynes of Cleveland.com, winner of the 2026 Career Excellence Award from the Baseball Writers Association of America. Paul will be honored in Cooperstown in July.
The odds are in favor of them making a coaching change because Kobe Altman's really dug in and committed to this core four and to this team. And so that's why I feel like Kenny's on the hot seat all of a sudden here.
That's our Browns beat writer, Daryl Ryder. You can get the latest from Browns practice throughout the week right now on our YouTube channel. Daryl recaps each and every practice while featuring the best highlights from coaches and players during media availability, as well as on-the-field action. So subscribe to 92.3 The Fan's channel on YouTube and get all the latest from Daryl on the Browns throughout the football season. Really good stuff from Daryl as well on the Cavs and what happened on Christmas Day. And yeah, man, Daryl thinks that it could be actual, that Kenny Atkinson could be on the hot seat here. I'm with you, Coach. Like, I just think that, like, I look at this core four and I look at, like, okay, well, JB Bickerstaff was fired and he's currently coaching the Detroit Pistons, number one team in the Eastern Conference. Now we've got Kenny Atkinson, won 64 games, won Coach of the Year, same core four that JB had, not off to a hot start, now on the hot seat. It's like, how many coaches are we going to have take a crack at this core four before we decide, hey, maybe it's not the coach, maybe it's the ingredients, behind this thing. And, like, I would like to see a smaller trade before I'm putting Kenny on the hot seat and before I'm chasing Kenny out of town because, like, full disclosure, Kenny was the guy that I wanted to replace JB. Like, I really thought that he could make the two-guard thing work because of what he did on Steve Kerr's staff in Golden State with Steph and Klay Thompson. I would hate to see them just show Kenny Atkinson the door just because you feel like you have to make some sort of change at this point in the season. However, I can't be naive to the situation, and I can't ignore the fact that this is bad right now, and, like, the rubber has to hit the road. And I thought he did a funny job answering your question where, like, yeah, I want to evaluate these guys in the playoffs, but you got to get to the playoffs. Like, you're a play-in team right now. Like, you got to get there so we can evaluate the state of this thing. It's scary. It's like, as the, Austin Carr and the late Fred McLeod, late Fred McLeod used to say, like, it's getting to be sweaty palms time here with our Cavaliers.
Well, here's the hard part is that, when I look at this team and I try to do, like, a comparison, I'm looking at last year's stats at this point in time and the record and things like that. And the thing that's standing out to me is the bench play. So when they talk about bench play, we'll talk about scoring, all that, but I just thought the bench gave great chemistry. And as a coach, I always look at chemistry of teams, regardless of what team I'm watching, and they don't look like they have very good chemistry. The flow of what you see, whatever you want to term that, but the offensive flow and the defensive help and the rhythm and pace and attention to detail, they don't seem to be playing at that level. Now, are they trying new things? My argument for Atkins is, are they trying some things? Because what they did, even though it garnered them a fantastic regular season last year, it did not work in the playoffs. Ty Jerome got exposed for athleticism, all those kind of things. Are they saying that didn't work, even though we had a great regular season? Be patient. This was what we're building towards in the playoffs. That would be my argument. But again, you have this roster, the core four, and you're paying a lot of money, and all those things tie into account. I'm thinking strictly on the court, but those other factors tie into it as well.
Yeah, like in the NBA, you don't usually get as many cracks at it as the Cavs have gotten with this group together. Like, you just don't. Like, it's a league where if it doesn't work, you're always on to the next thing, whether that's tanking and tearing it down and watching ping pong balls for draft picks, or you're flipping superstars for other superstars to try to find a better fit. So the fact that this core four is in their fourth season together, it's kind of amazing that they've made it this far as a group. But this was supposed to be the year, and that's why everything is under a magnifying glass for this basketball team right now, because this was supposed to be it. Like, you pushed your chips to the center of the table for this. You got outclassed, a couple different postseasons. You were injured, so you had those excuses, but it was all supposed to be for this year. And we know that, like, with the money, like, Dan Gilbert is cool paying into the luxury tax for a team that he believes can win a title. You might not believe that this team could win a title right now, and I would love to have the answer on that. Let's go out to Pepper Pike. BP's got some thoughts on the Cavs. What's going on, BP?
Hey, how you guys doing? Good morning.
Good, man.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you both. I've never talked with Lance before. I've enjoyed all your football talk, so I appreciate your optimism on the Browns. Sometimes I disagree with it, but I do appreciate, all your great work here on the station. But I did want to, first of all, wish happy holidays to you guys and all the listeners, too. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year to everybody.
For sure. To you as well, BP. Did yesterday's loss against the Knicks make you feel better or worse about the current state of affairs with this basketball team?
Yeah, I said before the game, if the Cavs could have won this game, it would be worth like 2 or 3 victories,
Agreed.
not just one. Because the whole country was watching, everybody was watching this game. And, the Knicks are our rival. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I hate the Knicks, and I hate their fans, to be honest. So, I mean, that was a disappointing game. I mean, that was like watching a Browns game. You were winning the whole way, and then you lose in the last, few minutes. It was really disappointing. I mean, and I hate to say it, I like Atkinson. He's a nice guy. I wanted them to hire him, but I've been disappointed with him. Like, I think a better coach would have won that game yesterday. I think the Cavs, I look back at the highlights, they were playing zone a lot in the fourth quarter. That guy, Tyler Kolek, who I barely heard of, was hitting threes completely unguarded. You cannot play a zone defense, when a team is like surging back on you. You got to play man to man. So I don't know. They benched Jalen Tyson for a lot of the fourth quarter. He was really good yesterday. That was a mistake. And even like when Donovan Mitchell had that dunk with about 20 seconds ago, they didn't immediately foul the Knicks. Again, that was coaching. And I think there's some coaching problems here with Atkinson, especially these in-game situations. He was out-coached by Indiana Pacers in the playoffs. I've seen some, there was a game against the Charlotte Hornets where they didn't, Garland, fell down and then Brandon Miller hit a three. Garland should have been in the game at that point. So, and they should have fouled, doing the thing where they do the fouling and then the guy shoots 2 free throws as opposed to shooting a 3. They should have figured out a way to, box out, Mitchell Robinson yesterday. The guy killed the game for us. So, a lot of problems. I think the roster is almost like a perfect roster. I mean, there's, it's a great roster when everybody's healthy. I just think, if I would take Michael Malone, the guy who was the Nuggets coach. I hate to say this, but I would fire Atkinson and bring in Michael Malone, who's sitting there working for ESPN right now. I would take him over Atkinson, and I think you would see a difference.
All right, BP, appreciate the call. All right, Lance, man, people fed up with Stefanski. People have had enough. We're going to get to more of you guys on the phones. Jeffrey, the mayor, Dick and Dayton. See you guys holding on. It's Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland with you guys till noon right here on 92.3 The Fan.
92.
was beating the Chiefs 20-13 in Kansas City. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
The radio home of the NFL in Cleveland.
This penalty's declined.
We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Here on 92.3 The Fan, Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland in studio with me. Had some good Cavs talk going, so we're going to keep that alive. Coach, you were telling me during the break, you're a little bit fed up with people saying that, like, Kenny Atkinson got out-coached yesterday against the New York Knicks.
Well, obviously I'm biased, being a coach, but the thought process is, you hear that term all the time, you got out-coached. So my question to you is, what does that mean to you? Because when I see somebody get out-coached, now there are times where you do get out-coached, and there are times where you go, okay, that guy had a nice scheme for what I did. But there's also, the vanilla offense, the out-coach, the predictability of that comes down to a lack of execution a lot of times. So when somebody says out-coach, what's that mean to you?
I think when somebody says out-coach to me, I take it as like the other coach, like the opposing team's coach was the reason why they won that game. And I have to say, I don't think that was really the case for the Cavs yesterday. I do think the Cavs yesterday came down to execution and lack thereof. They didn't execute when I thought they should have and when I would have really liked them to, namely getting rebounds in the fourth quarter. Like, Kenny Atkinson ain't out there boxing guys out. And I'll say this, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Atkinson did in that fourth quarter. I personally would have left Jalen Tyson in the game. He was absolutely balling. However, I understand that there's a comfortability level that Kenny has with some of the vets on this roster. I understand that he is a Dean Wade and Sam Merrill supporter, and Sam Merrill was a big reason as to why they were up 17 in the first place. So I understood his logic, and I don't think they were out-coached, even though I do disagree with some of the decisions that were made. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like you go back to as a football coach, you go, this is what the other team does, this is what we're going to do, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work, and the initial thought was you got out-coached. And sometimes that's the case, but it goes back to that feel versus, it's like the 2-point play the Browns ran, or an out-of-bounds play. Where does the execution tie into coaching, right? Because sometimes it does come down to players, and as coaches, we always say, you don't win because of us, you win because of players. And then obviously there's a fine line that also has to be true in some of the, through some of the bads as well, right? Sometimes the players don't execute, and they'll be the first ones to tell you.
Yeah, I think it works both ways for both conversations that we've had there this morning, because there have been moments in this Brown season where I thought Kevin Stefanski, could have done a couple of things different, but a lot of it has been execution, and a lot of it has been, maybe the guys just weren't coming in as prepared on that given day, and it is a younger roster with a lot of rookies, and I think the Browns have actually talked about that a lot, that it's a ton of young players, it's a ton of rookies, and there's even a lot of undrafted rookies on this roster, so it's a big execution thing, and certainly for our Cavaliers, while I disagree with a couple of decisions that Kenny made down the stretch, that game you lost by 2 points, you need 3 more points to win that game. It is execution. If you got a couple more rebounds and you didn't let Mitchell Robinson feast off of you on that offensive glass where you're giving Jalen Brunson 2-3 different looks at the basket, you're winning that game and walking away with a huge win on Christmas. And the conversation today is very different. I agree with what BP and Pepper Pike had to say on the show. On the phones, if you would have won that game, it would have felt like 3 wins, because you would have told the fans, but also told yourselves, we could beat those guys. We could beat the Knicks. That's something that mentally I think would have stayed with the fan base, but also with the team throughout the whole rest of the season. You're good enough to be in those games. And that's why this loss hurt so bad. It's because you were right there and you just couldn't finish the job again against that team.
Well, and that's what it really comes down to, is you didn't get the win, and it's a lot easier to do these, make these corrections when you win. And again, let me ask you a question. If let's say that 2-point play, which obviously I didn't like the call because they took the ball to Sanders and Fannon's play, but we're going to use a football analogy here. What if that play works? What if he run a reverse to me, that's the fine line, because there's the fine line between stupidity and brilliance, right? Because it didn't work, it looked real bad. But let's say it worked and people are going, they've been running Wildcat. What a great call off the Wildcat. That's kind of the nature of a coach, and that's what you have to do, and that's what Kenny Atkinson has to do, and Kevin Stefanski and all these coaches, in my opinion, is that's what you get paid the money for, right? And that's what you when you make those decisions, that's what happens. So again, that's when people say they got out coached, it's always just a kind of an interesting thought process on that, because it's so easy to say that. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we get out coached because you go and you tip your hat to their guy. Go, that was very well done by him. But sometimes it comes down to a team, and usually everybody has their hand in it.
Yeah, I think like for the Kevin on the 2-point stuff, like I get the rationale behind it, and like even the thing where it was like, well, when you're down 14 in the fourth quarter, should you take 2? Should you go for 2, or should you just kick the field goal? I do get the logic to go for 2, because then you're literally, okay, you score a touchdown again and you've won the game. You've got the game won. So I get the logic there, but I think like where people got upset with Kevin is it's just like, know yourself, know that you're the head coach of the Browns, know your situation, your personnel, and that these are young players like we're talking about, and you can't always trust them to execute the play at the highest degree the way that it would work for, like, say a team like the Rams. Say Kevin Stefanski was coaching the Rams and he tried that 2-point conversion where it was the direct snap to Judkins and then flip it to the outside. On the Rams, that could maybe work because they've got some veterans out there, but it's like, know yourself, know your personnel, and understand that was something that probably wasn't going to work because you have so many inexperienced players on the field, not just the players that were responsible for that, like in Judkins and Larvidan, to make that pitch happen, but how about the guys in front of them protecting them? Like, those are all rookies as well. How about Harold Fandon that's out there selling the decoy route? Like, that's a rookie out there too. Like, it's so many young players where I think people want Kevin to just have a better grasp over his own personnel and his own roster, even though he probably does wish that he was dealing with a more veteran squad.
Well, I think you said it best. There's the idea of the going for 2 on the initial touchdown. There's the exact example of feel versus numbers, right? The example of feel versus analytics. It tells them regardless of what happens in this situation, we are going for 2. And when those numbers guys as coaches, when they get to that situation, they're unfazed because the numbers tells them to do this. And then you take away from feel. And for me, once again, I always try to base the numbers to help my feel. And once again, I'm a little bit older. So for me, I didn't like that call because I want my players to decide it. So immediately when you didn't get the 2-point play, now you have to get 2. You have to score a touchdown, then score within the 3-yard line, which is so hard in the NFL because they're so fast. I want my players to decide it. But the idea of I'm going to use the numbers for I'm taking Sanders, who was cooking, and I'm going to find a matchup for Fannin and see if they can win. And then you go, you know what, those are my 2 best players at that point in time. But that's not what the numbers tell you. And these guys, and Kevin's not the only guy that does that in the NFL, right? There's a lot of guys that do that. But again, guys have different personnel, and sometimes the numbers don't match what the situation calls for.
All right, guys, 216-474-0092. Got a bunch of calls waiting on. Let's go out to Brooklyn, where the mayor of hoops, Ken in Brooklyn, hanging on. What's going on?
Listen, guys, we need to stop talking about the dumpster fire on the lakefront. Enough is enough. I have people that talk to me that basically when you guys go there, they turn the radio off. All right, so every host on this show, you need to talk about it's basketball season. We're in the heart of basketball season, and I'm glad you're talking Cavs. First, BP, the reason you don't know who Tyler Kolek is, you obviously don't watch college basketball. Me as the mayor of hoops, I watch it all the time. I'm actually out there looking for another big for this basketball team. Because the big that I wanted last year is playing very well in Charlotte. He happened to be the 4-year reigning champion of the.
It's your boy. It's your boy Kalkbrenner. I remember this from the summer, Ken. I remember.
That's right, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Now, what happened yesterday is 2 things. We fouled, and Tyson fouled Brunson, I think, twice on a 3-pointer, and finally. Donovan went up to him and said, dude, you can't do that. You cannot. One of the horrible things you can do in basketball is foul a guy shooting a 3. If he hits the 3, shake his hand and say congratulations, okay? But you can't do that. You talk about the rebounds. Okay, why did J.A. only play 23 minutes yesterday? It was 3 of 4 from the field. He had 7 points, I think 8 rebounds. Why is he not in the game? I mean, I like what Mobley did yesterday. I mean, the kid played 23 minutes. He had 14 points. I forgot how many rebounds. 9 rebounds, I think. I mean, this team is there. And the one thing you got to understand, Nick, is this team has had 18 starting lineups for the season. That's more than any other team in the NBA. I think this team has probably gotten more games lost to injury than any team in the NBA right now. Even Doris Burke said yesterday, you cannot evaluate this team to be 17-15 with all that. You haven't even played Strus yet. And to evaluate the team right now, you can't do that. I know I'm more frustrated than anybody, okay? And as far as Kenny Atkinson is, he actually, I guess, went to Voight and asked him how you go through all these struggles. Kenny Atkinson is not the problem. He doesn't have the personnel healthy right now, and he had the same thing happen to him in the NBA playoffs.
All right, Ken. Appreciate the call. And yeah. I remember Ken's Ryan Kalkbrenner. He was on that very early. He wanted that young man in Cleveland, so we will give the mayor of hoops his grace. Let's go out to Shaker Heights. Chuck's been hanging on, and he's got some thoughts on the Cavs. What's going on, Chuck?
Yeah, hey, guys. I was just thinking, about David Blatt. I mean, how can you fire a head coach that's have a team in first place? I don't know how many games they were ahead at that time. And then, not look at the fact that you got Kenny Atkinson, and this team is dropping like a rock, and they got the talent, just as much as talent. I think that had to be 216 when they fired Blatt at the beginning of I think it was kind of like mid-season.
They were the number one team in the East. Chuck, I'll tell you why, and we got to run them up against it. It's 2 words. It's really just one proper noun on why they fired David Blatt for Tyronn Lue. LeBron James. LeBron James had a big piece of that decision, and ultimately you saw it pay off. You saw it pay off in an NBA championship, and that's something that just typically does not happen. Like, you typically, when you're firing a coach mid-season, same with the people that want to make some blockbuster Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell trade in the middle of the season, typically does not equate into winning an NBA title unless that LeBron James guy is around. But that's all right. We're going to park our Cavs conversation from here because we've got some Browns conversations on our hands. And what does all of this mean for Andrew Barry? NFL Network's Ian Rappaport says what could happen, and that's that Andrew Barry could be sticking around. But should he? 216-474-0092. It's Nick Pedone and Coach Riz with you guys till noon right here on The Fan.
It's right here on 92.3 The Fan from the University Hospital Sports Desk. I'm Matt Corrali.
What do the next two games mean for Kevin Stefanski? This is the place to talk about it. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, Lance Reisland with you guys here on 92.3 The Fan. Want to hear from you, 216-474-0092. Had some really good Cavs talk there reacting to the Christmas Day loss against the New York Knicks. If you missed any of it, you could hit that rewind function on the free Odyssey app. Take the show with you to go on the free Odyssey app as well. Got to switch some gears, and we got to talk a little bit about the Browns. As Daryl, I thought, articulated himself really well when he said that for years and years, Coach, we've had this preconceived notion that was communicated to us through everybody that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry were a package deal. Certainly feels like that ain't the case anymore. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reporting a couple days ago that it seems like Andrew Barry will be a part of whatever the next chapter of Browns football looks like, and he will be a leader in making some of those decisions. I just want to hear your opinion on, is that the right thing to do? To live in a scenario where we're now separating Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry from each other, and we're going to live in a real environment, it seems, as Andrew Barry's going to be the guy that creates this football environment moving forward, even though he is just as responsible as everybody else for these last 6 seasons and what's gone wrong. I personally don't think it's the right move to bring Andrew Barry back to Cleveland. Where do you fall on this, especially as a coach?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm probably a little biased here, but I've been really big on the fact that the personnel they have out there is not very good on offense, and that's on the GM and who they draft and things they do. So I've been more of a component of they are connected, and I saw that alignment goes. Daryl said it best when the Flacco trade happened. The alignment, regardless of what level of football you're at, from high school, college, or pro, if you do not have alignment, you have no chance. So they can talk about scheme, they can talk about whatever they want. But one of the things that happened through the good and bad is that you felt that he and, they were thought partners, what I always thought was an amazing term. But they were guys who supported what each other did, right? And one guy, made a decision, but the decision was made with the other guys, ideas were involved in that. And when that happened, that tells you that that was separated. Now, why did they separate that? That has to come from somebody above saying, you're going to do this whether Kevin likes it or not, or you're going to do this whether Andrew. And that separation is what kills organizations from high school, college, or pro, like I said. And that's the problem where the Browns are right now. More than anything else that's happening on the field, their lack of alignment from top, from the owner, GM, coaches, players, everybody involved. That's the major issue for me. So when they say Barry should go, Barry's going to stay and Kevin's going to go, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Just because they are in this together, I'd rather have them get rid of both or keep them both. And obviously in the NFL, things have to. When you have 2 poor seasons, something's got to happen. But everybody has their hands in this. Everybody has their hands in the mess. If that's the case, I think everybody has to have their hands in, the consequences as well.
I just look at this situation, right? And so if I'm Andrew Barry, let's park the quarterback thing. Let's not even say the word quarterback. This offensive line and this wide receiver room is bad enough where somebody's got to go. And we haven't even gotten to all of the money that you guaranteed Deshaun Watson. We haven't even gotten to the 4-man island of misfit toys thing that happened this year with, the 2 rookies and the 2 veterans and what they tried to do there. If we're just looking at the offensive line and the fact that you've had 2 drafts and the one offensive lineman that you've drafted is Zach Zinter, and this wide receiver room with Jerry Jeudy and that mistake of a trade, and Elijah Moore and that mistake of a trade, and obviously Elijah Moore doesn't even play here anymore, and the lack of resources and the lack of hits that there have been in the draft at the receiver position, you think about it, sure, everybody will point to the Anthony Schwartz. That's a given, really bad, but it's hard to find talent in the NFL draft. Like, I think that's something that gets understated. For every Amon-Ra St. Brown, there is an equal and opposite Anthony Schwartz. For every guy that there is a hit in the mid to late rounds, there are equal amount of guys that just don't have that same pop. My issue with Andrew Berry, especially with these receivers, is it's like, dude, like, David Bell's out of the league. Jamari Thrash is like teetering on being in and out of the league. It's like you have these guys where 2 years removed from where you draft them, they're not even on the roster. It's not even that they're low impact players. It's that they're not even worth keeping around. It's like, I get that it's hard to find St. Browns in the 3rd and 4th round. Like, there's a reason Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase are the best of the best. They were first round picks. We knew they were going to be really good, but it's the fact that the guys that Andrew Berry is drafting, it's not even that they're not that good. It's that they're not even playable. They're not even NFL players. Like, that's the stuff that's bad. And I look at what I've got to solve moving forward. I need to build an offensive line. I need to build a receiver room, and I need to solve my quarterback thing. Well, this guy has an impossible time solving any 3 of those position groups.
Well, and you have this. So this ties into do you want a football guy or do you want a numbers guy? And, people had issues with Dorsey. And once again, Baker Mayfield didn't fit all the numbers and things like that. But the one thing that they did this year, and I think the reason they had success in the draft, is not only did they take guys who were had the measurements and the power 4 attributes that you're looking for when you're recruiting from high school to college. But the same thing goes with pro, right? Certain measurements, right? Yeah. Certain numbers. But there's guys who make plays. And the guys they drafted this year, from Sampson, being SEC Player of the Year, Mason Graham on the national championship, Junkin, you have all these guys. They also had production. You have to look at guys, and that's a really hard thing. So when you're saying all the hits versus the misses, you have a lot, in my opinion, you have a lot less misses when you take football players and you look past the numbers. Now, you have to have numbers because, when you go down to practice every day and I watch those guys, you're like, these are big guys. And, for me, the height with Dylan Gabriel was a lot less of a worry than there's no way he can survive the pounding he's going to take at less than 200 pounds. So for me, that's where the Browns have struggled in their evaluations at times. Now you hit on a guy in later rounds because of their measurements, but I feel that you hit a lot in later rounds because you find football players. There's guys out there who can just play football, and they have to have certain sizing, but they're way past that, and that's what the Browns don't do. Everything is based on numbers, and this is where they fit, and this is how successful they've been, and that doesn't always work. You don't find outliers in numbers. You find outliers watching the film and saying, this guy can play. That's what they did this year in the draft, and that's why I think that this draft has been so successful, because they went out and found guys that, when you watch on film, they make a ton of plays on film, regardless of how big and fast they are.
So this is what I would do, and I think you're going to like this because you're a coach, but this is seriously, like, this is not me trying to pander to you. This is my best and most realistic path forward for this football team here, Coach. I would clean house with everybody. And I hate sitting here like calling for these guys' jobs, because I get these are actual living human beings. And even though we cover them, these are guys that go home to their families and all of that. So I hate doing that. But I think when I try to identify my path forward, I'm cleaning house of Barry, Stefanski, and I'm hiring my coach first. And I need a proven football coach that's a football guy that's a leader of men. And even if on paper, if it doesn't seem like an instant upgrade, like when the Cowboys fizzled out the Mike McCarthy thing this past offseason, they went with Brian Schottenheimer. Like, it felt like a little bit of an unknown. Like, here you had a Super Bowl caliber coach in McCarthy, and you're taking a chance on a guy that's never done it before, but they called their shot and they got their guy. And that's what I'm in the marketplace to do. Even if it doesn't seem like a true upgrade from Kevin Stefanski, go out there and get your coach. And then from there, I need my coach to be the true CEO of the organization, and he's leading the charge. Now, you're going to need a general manager as well, because you need somebody to balance the cap sheet, and ultimately somebody's got to be responsible for putting the name on the draft cards, but being GM, way more than that. But my coach is the guy that leads everything. And I think if you have a serious coach, you can then have a serious serious organization that follows his footpath and that follows in his image and likeness, so to speak. Like, I kind of wish they would have done that with Kevin Stefanski, because I think Kevin, to his credit, has in his head a way that things should look. I think Kevin, to his credit, knows these are the type of players that fit what I want to do very well, but the personnel has not always exactly matched that. Like, going out to get Deshaun Watson, great idea. At the time, top 5 MVP candidate. But he is not really a Kevin Stefanski type quarterback. So I think I would like to get a serious coach in here first. And that gives me my path forward. Like, am I going to go with Shedeur? Maybe. If the new coach wants to, absolutely. Am I going to go with a rookie quarterback? Maybe. If the new coach wants to, absolutely. Like, I want a new coach to come in here and give this entire thing direction, because I think when you can identify a serious coach and an actual leader of men, it becomes a lot easier for this thing to build the way that it should in my mind. Does that make sense, or am I just nuts?
No, the thought process is this, is that do you, as head coaches, when I got hired as a head coach, even at the high school level, I got hired as a head coach because you're pretty good at, or you feel you've had some success at, so I'm an offensive coordinator, so I had some success. And then I got to a head coach, and so I didn't know how I was going to be as a head coach. So I didn't give up play calling, because like, I'm a decent head offense coordinator. I don't particularly know if I'm going to be good at this, or will I even like it.
Right.
Some guys like to coach ball. Some guys want to, that's me. I want to coach position. I want to do those things. Some guys don't. And that's kind of where the Browns are at. Do they hire a guy who came in with a pedigree on the offense defense side of the ball, or do they take a guy who, a Mike Tomlin, who is going to delegate these things? He's going to have his thoughts, because that's how all these guys get hired. But that CEO is always kind of the thought process. What goes into a CEO and what goes into what they delegate and what they want. Now, I've always been a believer, the thing that is crazy in the NFL, and it happens on a lot of teams, is that the connection between the general manager and the football coach. If I'm the football coach, I want my guys on the team. And it feels like there's a disconnect sometimes with these coaches and who they're drafting. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So to agree with you on something, I absolutely think that hire a head coach where he's the guy making the bottom line decisions.
Right.
And he'll have the general manager and the scouts do all that, but get the guys that he likes, get the guys that he wants. That's what's happened with Kevin a lot. Now, once again, he's lost and everybody has their own thoughts, and that's great. But the bottom line is, the coach you sign up there. Often in coaching, you get hired to get fired. We all know that. And that's the way football works. It's a very emotional game. But as a head football coach, if I don't have the final call on who I'm putting on the field or who I'm drafting, that would be tough. And once again, so that was always my thing with Dorsey. People liked him or didn't. I always liked him because he was a football guy.
Yep.
And I never heard him talking about stats and the metrics. He talked about guys making plays on the field. And that's where the Browns, you're looking for guys who make plays. They just don't have a lot of those guys on offense, and they haven't. And you got to start on the inside out. You need an offensive line. You need receivers. But first and foremost, you got to find guys who like football and play football regardless of how big and fast they are.
Alrighty, let's go out to Chicago, where Chris has been holding on, and he's got some thoughts on what the Browns should do and how they should build this thing moving forward. What's going on, Chris?
Gentlemen, good show.
Happy holidays to you, my friend.
Yeah, same to you guys. Coach, I called, I know you don't remember. I barely remember it, but I called you on a pregame show complaining about two of Andrew Barry's picks, and it was Zach Zinner and Mike Hall Jr. And I'm a big fan of local guys. Mike Hall, I wanted him when they picked him or whatever, but I think it's some of those second and third round misses, especially when you don't have first round picks because of the Watson deal, that really are kind of the thing. And you guys were talking about the receivers too, that he's missed on. And my point then is, I think unfortunately Andrew would go also, in my idea, if Kevin had to be fired. I guess you fire Andrew as well. But is there any hope for Zinter or Mike Hall Jr. while we're on the subject? Just asking. I know they've both been hurt, and that doesn't help either.
Chris, thanks for the call.
All right, so I'll go to Zach Zinner. So when Zach Zinner was at Michigan, he was a perfect fit for what the Browns were doing at that point in time. He's a guard that played under Hardball. He's a guard that pulled a lot, which is what the Browns guards were doing at that point in time. Really good on power, really good at marrying the run and the pass. Was not great in just pure pass protection, but a lot of offensive linemen aren't. A lot of offensive linemen are really good when they have both. So his injury, he has never recovered. Watching him down at practice each and every since he's been here, his footwork laterally and his ability to have explosion has not been the same since that really catastrophic injury he had against Ohio State. Mike Hall is a guy, he's a numbers guy. He is extremely explosive, and he's extremely impressive when you see him in person. He has never played the run very well. He did not play the run very well at Ohio State. But what he gives you is he gives you incredible measurables, and he gives you a guy that can really rush a passer. So in that thought process, having him be at a 3-down defensive lineman, I'm not sure if that's ever going to be his thing. He's going to have to improve against the run. But when he's out there for 3 downs on first and second down, even this year when he's gotten in there, he struggles with double teams. He struggles anchoring in there, but he can get off the ball and he can rush the passer. So again, Zinter's been more because of the injury. Mike Hall is doing what he does well. He's also doing poorly what he's always done poorly, which is be stout against the run.
Where do the Cleveland Browns decide to go from here? It certainly feels like some changes are coming, but how far should they go? Ryan, Allen, see you guys on hold. We're going to get to you guys straight ahead. It's Nick Pedone and Coach Riz, Lance Reisland, right here on The Fan.
Want to see the wine and gold when they take on Orlando on January 26th? Sign up for our
20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan from the University Hospital Sports Desk. I'm Matt Corrali.
When you want the latest on the Browns, we're the station you turn to first. 92.3 The Fan is Cleveland's home for breaking sports news. Your teams, your station.
Nick Pedone, Lance Reisland with you guys till noon here on The Fan. Appreciate everybody participating on the phones. 216-474-0092. Got a couple folks that we wanted to squeeze in on this Cleveland Browns conversation. Let's go out to North Olmsted, where Ryan's been patiently hanging on. Got some thoughts on Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry and their potential split from Cleveland. What's going on, Ryan?
Hey, Nick and Coach. Hey, great show as always, man. Coach, you're intimidating. Your knowledge, dude. I listen to you a lot. You know your stuff, so I'm going to try my best to try to kind of see what you're, what I think and what maybe you think is better. Again, Nick, you had a good idea, obviously, with, you just want to win, just like all of us Browns fans. So getting the right guys in there, obviously, when it comes to coaching and obviously the GM, whatever it is, the two guys usually, well, three in particular, that are usually the ones blamed first and foremost when it comes to losses, usually the quarterback and then the head coach. Again, ironically, we're playing a team who does not fire. They keep and retain coaches and quarterbacks and et cetera, which is the Steelers, which, I digress. I don't care for the team, but I do respect the fact that they just have a way about them where they find the right guy and they stick with them. So again, I understand, Nick, where you're coming from, where you want to win, so you want to get the right guy in there. But this firing frenzy that the Browns year in, year out mentality for the past pretty much 20 years since 99 we've been going through has not been the MO to win.
So Ryan, not to cut you off, so you're saying you would run it back with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry again next season?
Well, here's what I'm saying. I recognize Stefanski, in my opinion, and again, I'm just using a random one out here. I want to say he's like the 15th, 16th best coach in the NFL. And I know that's like, well, what does that mean? That means at least we have something. Because, again, this whole idea of just firing coaches and getting new quarterbacks in there and new GMs, you alluded to Dorsey, which I like Dorsey, whatever it was 6 years ago. Really good mind for a GM. Getting the right guys in there is fine. But again, I think it has more to do with the Hectors and the Joes and the X's and O's, meaning the players in the field compared to really the coaching staff and the GM. Now, the GM, I think, is the guy that really is the one who should be the focal point, because he's the guy that, and again, I give him an A so far for last year's draft. That was phenomenal. And we got another extra draft pick out of it as well. So that's one of the best drafts in Browns history. At the same time, we keep firing coaches and new quarterbacks, this, that, and the other. We're just going to fall right back into the same category. We're going to talk about the same thing. It's going to be like Groundhog Day next year. We're going to talk about the same thing. So I think Stefanski, honestly, should stick around. I do believe it has to do more so with the winning. And if we would have we'd be winning this year, we would not have this conversation about Stefanski. I think the losing aspect, we want to blame somebody, and it's usually either the quarterback or the head coach. So with that being said, I recognize as a Browns fan, we all want to win. But again, this firing frenzy year in, year out, man, Coach, you hear me out. And Nick, have we won with doing this mentality over the past 26 years? I don't think that's really the MO to win. So I think we should retain Stefanski. I think we need to just get the right quarterback in there and the right offensive scheme. And I think we should just torpedo ahead. And I think everything will be fine if wins happen. When losses happen, then we have this conversation. With that being said, guys, great show as always. Thanks for taking my call.
Ryan, appreciate your call there. Coach, where do you fall on that? Because there is something to be said about cohesion. I just tend to play like it's been 6 years. Like, this is year 6 of this. And I can't keep creating excuses for these guys because, I do subscribe in my personal and business life. nothing changes when nothing changes. So I'm trying to find a meaningful change for long-term success. Like, I want to get off this carousel just like you guys do. Like, I want off this ride. That's how I feel when I watch the Browns, and that's how I feel with everything surrounding this discourse. I just look like, and I'm trying to ask myself, like, is Kevin Stefanski going to be the coach of this thing 10 years from now? Probably not. Like, this right now has been that bad because it's been 6 years, and he's gotten, one trip to the playoffs really to show for it, and another magic carpet ride with Joe Flacco that, we all knew what that was. We were playing with house money at that point. So, like, I'm trying to have my last meaningful change and then build something that actually works. And I hear you guys that are sick of the changes, and that early on in Haslam's ownership, it had been quick to hire, quick to fire, but they saw this through, man. It's been 6 years, and I give Browns ownership a ton of credit for that. Like, you survived Baker Mayfield, you survived Deshaun Watson. That was 2 different eras of Browns football that this head coach and GM have led us through. It is time for something different.
Well, I appreciate the call, Ryan, and it was a different perspective that I kind of appreciate, and here's why. Is, everybody, the quick change, they're quarterback-wise, there are the Jaden Daniels of the world. Very, very rare, though. He's an outlier, just like anybody else who has success early on. When you get change, that means that everything changes. If you're getting a new coach and a new head coach and a new general manager, that means there's probably going to be a learning curve. That means they're going to clean house. That means everything is cleaned house. From the managers to the food to everything gets changed. The philosophy changes. And usually that comes with a learning curve, right? And that usually comes, really good teams retool. They don't rebuild. And the Browns are always in this rebuild instead of this retool. So there is an expectation. Bottom line is, you're not winning. So if anything was to happen, you understand why, because that's the truth. But you got to be careful what you wish for at times as well. Is there somebody out there that is better right now? We don't know that. We want it to be better because we want to win. And that's where I always come in with people who are upset with me and my philosophy of keep Stefanski, is the idea of it's not always, the grass isn't always greener. It can be. But also, you remember, that comes with change. So if you like Shedeur Sanders, there might not be a guy, the next guy in. That's not a for sure. If you hate Shedeur Sanders, that's not a for sure that he might not be the guy right now. You're in the situation where you have to say, what is the best case scenario for what's going on? And the bottom line is, unfortunately, the NFL comes down to winning and losing, and the Browns are losing. So the idea of him being around probably is not realistic, and that's the bottom line. But the idea of that something's going to change and we're expecting an immediate quick result, that's also very unrealistic. And that's the reality of it.
I just look at this. I'm glad you said that last part about what you said about Shedeur. And that's why, like, I haven't really been entertaining that conversation on what comes next for the Cleveland Browns. And the reason why is I got to see who the coach of this thing is going to be. I got to see who the GM of this team is going to be. Like, here's an example I'll just throw out, and I don't think this is going to happen. I'm not imploring this to happen, but, like, for everybody that thinks that, like, if they get a top 2 draft pick, they probably go quarterback. Yeah, you're probably right. Caveat being, what if ownership gets excited and hires Coach Prime as the next head coach of this thing? Well, then you're not drafting a quarterback in the top 2 if that happens, right? So, like, I got to go through order of operations. So I got to do my PEMDAS, up on the whiteboard. Like, I need to find out who the coach is going to be of this thing moving forward, who the general manager of this thing is going to be going forward, so we could find a palatable path forward through all of this. Because I know I'm sick of the losing, you're sick of the losing, I'm sure ownership is sick of the losing, but there has to be some sort of plan. And I think, unfortunately for Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry, if you're Browns ownership, if you're Jimmy Haslam, you could look at those guys and be like, hey, you guys have genuinely had 6 years to put something together here, and 6 years towards building towards something, and we haven't been doing that. Not only are we not doing that, but the stock arrow on the team is no longer pointing up. Like, now we've got an offensive line that's expensive and old and beat up, and they're all free agents, and now I've got to build that, and I've got to build this receiver room while trying to build the quarterback thing on top of it. It's just too much going on, and that's why I would love nothing more than a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of ears on this entire operation, so we could actually build this thing the right way, and we could find a path forward here. Let's go out to Allen in Cleveland. Got some thoughts on how the Browns can rebound and repair this thing. What's going on, Allen?
Hey guys, how you doing? I just wanted to say to you guys, I agree with the last caller. You know, I don't want to change out everybody. Like, I do want to keep Barry and Stefanski. My take on this is, Coach Riz, I want your thoughts on this. We do not need to go back to a rookie quarterback. We have a roster. We have a defense that's ready now. We have a veteran core that doesn't want to go through the waiting game again of another quarterback. I think we should look at the Jets as a team that we could partner with to get those 2 first-round picks and settle with Sanders and let Sanders and Watson battle it out. At least the players know that they have these 2 guys that they know. They kind of know more of them from. Stefanski know what these guys are from. If you look at our games, Coach Riz, throughout this season, some of these games, man, we're 2 plays away. You know what I'm saying? Like a play away, a change away, or just like having more experience. Like, I mean, the defense is ready to go. You get those picks, you're talking about having like 4 picks in the top 40. I mean, with the draft we just had, the lineman that's coming out, Coach Riz, like, I mean, this could be a great way to reset our team.
Appreciate the call. Absolutely. And I'm on board with saying this. You got to build a football team from the inside out. And right now the Browns don't have a very good offensive line. And Nick, you brought up the fact that they're expensive. And that's a really hard, I think, with offensive linemen. As I learn the game, and I learn what's happening is, what's the fine line be like? You're going to pay an offensive lineman who's older because he's experienced and is going to give you what you want, and then all of a sudden he's just old, right? And that's a hard line in the NFL. It's like running backs; they're really good until they're not. And that's a hard balance, and I don't really know where that balance is. However, I'm with you when you start all over. So immediately I start thinking about if the Browns can build inside out. You think about the tackle out of Utah. You think about the tackle out of Miami. All the guys that I'm really, really high on, those guys are really, really good. If Shador can pan out, then all of a sudden you get a kid like Lemon out of USC who can make plays. I don't think they need a receiver as much as they need a playmaker. If that receiver can get me easy yards, then he's the guy. Is he a guy like Achan out of Miami, a touch guy, right? So there's a lot of things they need. Or do you take a generational talent? Because I'll tell you right now, I've watched a lot of film, and I'm getting into more and more film. I think the best player in this draft for me is Caleb Downs. And people are like, well, we don't need a safety. Well, if you're telling me Caleb Downs is going to be like Ed Reed, then I'm all in. Because then you got your quarterback, and then you can get linemen, and there's certain things you can do. But it all starts with the idea of, do you trust the quarterback? Is he your guy? In football, to this day, even though it's become a pass-happy league, you win and lose up front. And that's where the Browns are getting beat this year. Is the quarterback play has been one thing, receiver, you can say what you want. They have lost up front, and that's why the defense has been so good. As well as these guys have played in the back level, that defensive front has made them elite.
Alrighty, straight ahead. When discussing the general manager, it's only right that we discuss the path forward. Is that path forward Shador Sanders? Is that path forward a rookie quarterback? 216-474-0092. It's Nick Pedone, Coach Riz, talking about the smart way to build the Browns. We're going to pick Coach's brain on if they should actually build around Shador Sanders like the way some of you guys in the YouTube comments want them to. Don't go anywhere. Back in 5 minutes right here on The Fan.
Hey, it's Nick Wilson. If
Sports Desk, I'm Matt Corrali.
Talk sports deep into the Cleveland night. Overtime with Jake Volnick. Weeknights at 7. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
You can listen to The Fan anytime, anywhere on the free Odyssey app or by telling your smart speaker to play 92.3 The Fan. And now you could find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube, including the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima from 6 to 10 a.m., an afternoon drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin from 2 to 7 p.m. live each and every weekday on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel for free and watch all of the best content from your favorite shows on The Fan live and on demand right now. And we actually go out to the YouTube comments for this next segment. Nick Pedone, Lance Reisland with you guys on The Fan here till noon. Lance, I've been keeping an eye on this. This is what the YouTube chat has been arguing with each other about for the entirety of the time we've been doing this show. They're arguing with each other about if it's a good idea for the Browns to build around Shedeur Sanders, or should they be really taking a good hard look at Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, a QB really high up in the draft?
Well, if it came down to that, I'm a Dante Moore fan. We'll get into that more later this year. But I like Mendoza. I like Mendoza, but I really like Dante Moore. I think he's outstanding, and it's really an interesting kind of. I think there's so many holes here. So if you're asking my thought process on it, I've always believed this with offense and defensive linemen. This is what makes Mason Graham so impressive to me this year. Is that when you get to the NFL, it's like being a freshman in college. You're a freshman lineman in college. You're 18 years old. You're a 23-year-old man when you graduate. Same thing as an offensive lineman in the NFL. You come in as a 23-year-old young kid, young adult, and you're going against 30-year-old grown men. So I think the Browns really need to address, not only build some things for the future up front, but I think they really got to get some veteran guys in that 27 to 30-year range who have been established and are grown men, families, full beards, grown men who have been in the weight room for a while. Then they got to address this. You talk about Tyson Kidd out of Arizona State. You talk about Lemon. If you're keeping Shedeur, then you got to find some people. You got to protect them, and then you got to find some people, that can get the ball and do something with it. And then you got to remember, you got to take players. And I don't care how good your defense is. And if Caleb Downs is there, that's something you got to think about as well. So there's a lot of options. Obviously, if they're taking Mendoza or if they're taking Moore, then Shedeur's not going to be here. And then we're in this whole kind of boat again. So it's an interesting concept for me because there's so many holes. I'm giving him, and what he's showing, I'm keeping him, and I'm going to get some offensive linemen, get some veterans, get a couple touch guys. And if I got a guy that can make my defense even better than it is, I'm doing that as well.
Already, our social media reactions on X, powered by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Kenny Dennis tweets the show at NickPedone12. At Lance Reisland says Shedeur Sanders got to be Superman before he deserves a real shot. He's never had a full deck. Harold Fandon Jr., the only one, but after that, his offensive lineman's been hurt and bad. Wide receivers can't get open against top-level defenses. Only option is a check down or force it to Jerry Butterfingers Judy. That one from Kenny Dennis 1 on X. And that is kind of the way that I feel too. Like, I would like to see what an entire offseason of work looks like for Shedeur Sanders. And he kind of hinted about that himself when he was like, we think we're having fun now. Had a couple good showings against, bad teams in the Raiders and the Titans. Imagine what he could do with an entire offseason. Imagine what he could do with an actual offensive line. Imagine what he could do with Ohio State's own Cardell Tate. Not to be too much of a homer. Like, I think if you could get him some actual help, it'll only get more fun, and it could only be that much better as we move forward. And obviously, I can't be naive to the situation. Like, if you're sitting there with the number 1, number 2 overall pick, and a new head coach wants to call his shot and take his rookie quarterback, that is what it's going to be. But ultimately, I'm with you, Coach. Like, I would like to see them get serious offensively and build around the quarterback, and that way you're either setting Shedeur Sanders up for success, and if he can't find that success, well, then you're set up in a really nice position in 2027 to go find your guy.
Well, two things is I always try to keep it from what I see on film, and I always say two things about some of his performances this year. His performances were good against NFL teams. I never say they're bad NFL teams because that's a discredit to those guys. These guys all make a lot of money trying to stop Shedeur Sanders when he's playing. So when he played well against the Raiders, Titans, credit goes to him and his teammates. The other thing is not having those players around him has kind of thwarted his growth a little bit. It thwarted Dylan's as well. And what he's been able to do is he's been kind of able to kind of get past that and make some impactful plays. And that's what he's done, in my opinion, more than anything else. He's made some impactful plays. That's really hard to do as a rookie. So there's some leadership skills there that are things you don't measure. And, and once again, this check down, I want everybody to know the check downs that he took this week, those are different than the checkdowns sometimes that quarterbacks take. He took the checkdowns because that's what's given to him. So that's a good thing, right? Not taking the checkdown because he was just getting rid of the ball fast. He took the checkdown because what they showed him coverage-wise, blitz-wise, front-wise, all those things that we talk about as coaches, that's what was there. So that's a really positive thing. That's really growth in his evaluation. Throwing the ball deep doesn't evaluate a quarterback. The ability to get to where the ball needs to be based on what you see is. And he's done that pretty good. So I'm on the board with there's so many, and I agree with you, Nick. Let's get some other pieces, see what happens. Then if you can't do it, then you go from there. But you can't. It's hard. I'm sorry. I always believe I'm older now, but football starts and will always start up front. And until they get better up front, this whole other process doesn't mean it much to me.
Well, and it's Ken Cartman who usually sits in this seat that says, everybody wants to talk about winning in the trenches until it's time to actually start winning in the trenches. Everybody wants to talk about it. It's a great cliche to lean upon, but when you need to actually construct an offensive line, then you got to go ahead and do just that. The defensive line, I think you're winning games there. I think you've won there. I think you've figured that out, but I do like to see them get an offensive line built, because even if it's not Shedeur next year, even if they do go with Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, one of these young quarterbacks, I don't want to see that guy get Tim Couch. I don't want to see that guy get killed because they're under constant duress. I want to build this thing the right way. All right, quickly though, I do want to pivot because I know you had some thoughts on the latest news coming out of the college football landscape. Speaking of some of these college football QBs, Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham, it seems like, has emerged to becoming the focus of the head coaching search for the University of Michigan. Reading the tea leaves a little bit here, this is a guy that was kind of toying with the idea of retirement, certainly a little bit up there in age, 66, 67 years old. Could this be like a Pete Carroll type of thing to the Raiders where they're trying to get a culture set, even if it is just a bit of a stopgap because they have had so many scandals going on at Michigan? What do you see for the fit of Kyle Whittingham potentially becoming the new focus of University of Michigan search?
Oh, I don't think there's a better fit in college football for this particular job. First of all, you're talking scheme, right? Michigan wants to be a power football team that does things right. You heard the intern head coach at Michigan say this place is a disaster right now. And culturally, it's a disaster because there are things they're doing off the field. Kyle Whittingham's a guy who demands you do the right thing on and off the field. But he's at a place, Utah, that financially in this day and age with NIL probably struggles to keep up. So he's winning with super tough kids, and they're super well. You ever watch a Utah game, you will not watch a more well-coached football team at any level of football. And that idea of bringing that discipline, that off-the-field mantra, that idea of now I got a little bit of resources as compared to what I had at Utah, I have arguably the best resources, if not top 5.
Yeah,
I think this is a home run thought here by Michigan. And if he wanted to retire because the NIL, that's probably stuff gets exhausting. Well, that's not as much of an issue at Michigan right now.
Yeah, in fact, maybe then you could. It turns into a thing where maybe then the NIL aspect of his job could actually excite Coach now, because wait a minute, I was playing with a half deck, to use that example from our prior conversation. Now I'm playing with. I've got an entire arsenal worth of NIL cash and boosters and all this stuff to use at Michigan. You could see how that would be an attractive fit.
Well, you talk about a mid-American school or a Power 4 team that doesn't have a ton of resources. Basically what you're doing, and these young kids, and I will never blame these young kids, go get your, do what you got to do. You have to be careful what you wish for. But if I'm playing well at the University of Utah and I'm a stud offensive lineman, credit to him for those guys, like the Lamu kid right now. Those kids stay in there because there's no doubt they probably can get more money at other places. So credit for him to, keeping those guys there. But that's the problem with these schools. If you're not a blue blood right now, there's going to be such a separation in the next couple of years unless they kind of have some handles on this NIL, it's going to be the highest bidder, and you're going to get a separation between the top 5 to 10 schools and everybody else because the money's going to say so. So once again, though, football wise only, what he likes to run offensively and what Michigan wants to be is a home run hit for the Wolverines.
Alrighty, well, from one high-spending NIL program in Michigan to another in our Ohio State Buckeyes, we're getting a little bit closer, a little bit less than a week away now, to that New Year's Eve matchup against the Miami Hurricanes. And I know you've got some notes jotted down on what the Buckeyes need to do in that game as well.
Well, when you watch the Buckeyes, the thing that's been most impressive is their balance. They run the ball very well. They throw it very well, but they want to throw it more than they want to run it. And obviously when you have Tate and Mr. Smith, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the only way I think you can beat, I think two teams really give the Buckeyes trouble. It's Miami and it's Texas Tech. And why I say that is because their ability to rush with 4 and cover with 7. Because if you have to rush 5 and 6, now you're getting into man coverage, you're getting into one-on-ones. You're not going to win that against the Buckeyes. So if you can rush with 4, now you got 7. You can double 2, you can double Tate, you can double Smith, you can make somebody else beat you. Now, Ohio State is so deep that can happen, but for right now, I think Miami, when you talk Ruben Bain on one side, the ability to rush the passer with just 4 and cover with 7 are two things that Miami can do, two things that I think really Texas Tech can do at a high level. Those are two teams, in my opinion, that, obviously I think Georgia, but I'm just talking individual matchups and style. Those are two that really, if I'm an Ohio State fan, those would be my word. I think this is a really tough matchup for Ohio State, obviously for Miami as well, but in this what a football game this is going to be. The Texas Tech, Oregon, and the Miami Ohio State, those are two really good football games.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that we're the college football thing has made me so upset, and it feels like I've kind of reserved to just not really talking about it a whole lot because, the first round, a lot of those matchups, come on, we're not going to sit here and break down Tulane and JMU, because you knew what those games were going to be, and now that those blowouts are out of the way, I'm excited to get back to getting serious about college football because you said it, I do think this Ohio State-Miami game should be a great measuring stick for the Buckeyes, and then I probably don't get really nervous about Ohio State until Georgia. Mm-hmm. So I really like this path. I really like this side of the bracket that they're on. And I kind of feel like personally, they really don't have much of an excuse. You've got two of the best receivers in college football. You've got the best defense in college football. You've got a Heisman finalist as your quarterback. And that feels like the guy that's been talked about the least in this entire thing in Julian Sands. So really excited for Ohio State, Miami. Really excited to get some actual college football playoff matchups that are going to be worthwhile, worth watching. We're just about out of time on the program. Crazy to say. Huge thanks to everybody that chimed in on the phones. Huge thanks to everybody in the YouTube comments. Huge thanks to everybody that tweeted in. Daryl Ryder joined us at 10 a.m. Big thanks to him taking some time out of his busy holiday plans. Go listen to that free Odyssey Rewind app. I'm Nick Pedone. He's Coach Riz. Huge thanks to Jax Gregory. Huge thanks to Matt Crowley. Jake Volnick with overtime in the midday. Straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is Linnell Willingham with an Odyssey Sports.